Called to order Tuesday, February 11th, meeting of the Dayton City Council. Stand for the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I need a motion and a second for the agenda.
I'll make the motion.
If we want to pull something out of the consent agenda, does that happen now?
No, not yet.
In a second. Yep.
After the second.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Yeah, now we can.
I would like to pull F out of the consent agenda.
Okay. Let's make F.
Do you want to just go right after the consent agenda, Mayor?
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay.
Because I definitely had questions about F, but, okay, we can do it afterwards.
And then we're going to remove item H.
And item H is gone, right?
Yep, item H needs to be removed or tabled until the next council meeting. Please and thank you.
Okay, so, anybody have any adjustments other than moving item F to a separate, to outside the consent, and removal of H? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Consent agenda, need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Nothing?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
A couple of these already answered. So, Marty, do we change our own oil on a lot of vehicles at Public Works?
Yes, we do.
Okay, because it seemed like we bought a lot of oil.
Yeah, that's probably going to be an annual oil for us. And there's a lot for the police department as well, because we changed theirs as well.
I didn't know if you were hedging or, something about oil prices we need to know.
No,
Short the market.
we're good.
Right. Yeah, okay, thank you. And also, on page 12, Chief Enga, there was a charge for $16,878 to Emergency Auto Tech. Is that equipment or is that a repair?
Equipment.
Equipment?
Yeah,
So-
it was equipment for one of the new squads.
New squads?
Yep.
Okay, perfect, thank you. That's all I had.
Anybody else have anything? Okay, we got motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Consent is passed, 5-0. Item F. Municipal state aid funds. You want to start?
Sure. Why is South Diamond Lake Road on there? I mean, I live on that road. I drive that road every day, and I would never in a million years have pegged it for needing to be repaved.
Mayor calls, I'll have Jason Quisberg, city engineer.
It's
It's identified on the pavement management plan for an overlay.
Okay. I'm just,
Yeah. The plan is in process right now. In fact, we just got state aid approval on the plans.
okay.
There's a lot of alligator on the road, cracking.
What did we do to it back in
Like a complete
2008,
reclaim.
9? It was a complete?
Yeah, that was before my time. I think it was a full depth reclamation, which means they ground up all of the
Like
pavement.
and
I don't know if that was
down.
all of it or just a portion of it.
Certainly the piece in front of my place.
Yeah, it was just a portion of it, just from the swamp area down to around Zanzibar, the public workshop there. I believe that's where, and they put some of
And
that
then it was-
concrete under the pavement there as part of the reclamation.
There was the full reconstruction, I believe, out here in '08, '07.
That was done as part of the sewer and water utility. They replaced the road when they put the pipes in.
Is this plan mill and overlay this
Yes.
time around?
Yep.
So, my question was, it looks like we're gonna pull in MSA funds for out years, too?
Yeah, that's what this action is to approve
Yep.
or formally request the advancement of future year allotments.
So I thought when we went through that plan, we didn't count on out-year money, and we were still gonna meet the plan.
Yes.
So
We
why are
weren't
we-
even going to use state aid on South Diamond until there was an adjustment, and Zach can probably fill this in better than I can, but an adjustment in the levy, so it was to relieve burden on the levy
Mm-hmm.
because of the fiscal disparities. That's my understanding of it. So to make up that levy draw necessary for the pavement plan, it is state aid eligible, so it's a state aid eligible route, so we're pulling those funds to cover that gap.
Mayor, Mayor Council, yeah, so that's, part of it is that we were able to use that, I'm gonna say the $573,000 of additional dollars that we have for this year's balance to be able to
Yep.
fulfill that levy need and gap. After reviewing the MSA dollars, we said, why wouldn't we use MSA dollars now, draw them in the future allocations early, and then free up essentially those pavement management dollars for whether to do additional project or do additional item later on. Instead of utilizing our dollars first, why wouldn't we use the state dollars first? That also helps us with gaining additional dollars if communities aren't going to get theirs. There is also another MSA project that's scheduled till 2028 or 2029, I think at the earliest. We can have that, and again, we can not advance dollars. It's just what's going to happen is we're going to end up with a large balance of MSA dollars that we're not going to be able to have, and then we're going to end up with, and we'll use the city like Edina that has a large balance. They say, you don't need any more MSA dollars, you're good. And that was my concern. Is
That somehow we would lose.
eventually, yeah, because this MSA dollars can only be spent on MSA roads, and the only road we have that's eligible for MSA dollars at the moment would be this one in
My
Territorial.
only concern is that it now looks like we're flush with pavement money, and really we're not, because now we're gonna borrow against that MSA. Just like we do with Pineview. Now Pineview, I mean, there's a difference here in that, to me, this job needs to be done. Might argue that Pineview was fluff.
Sure.
But, yeah, I just don't want us to think now that we have all kinds of pavement money sitting around, so look for things to spend it on.
Yeah, the idea is
I
again
guess.
gain a larger balance so that we're able to do more, do those additional projects. Part of the item that council wanted to do is make a PQI, or that pavement quality index, to be higher than what it is currently. I think it was 70% or
70.
Yep, 70% that we wanted to meet, and so that will help us with accomplishing that, and maybe even sooner than what we thought, and we can try to mitigate earlier than.
That was the
Pulls
goal,
us negative for 3 years.
Yeah, it's 3 years, I
3
believe,
years, yeah.
3.5
Through
years, something like that.
28,
Yes.
yeah.
Once we get to 2028, then again, we'll be in the positive. And just being in the negative doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It just means that we're essentially saying we're going to borrow the money that we're going to get in the future. And then, sometimes it does help us in the fact that we get additional dollars from other communities that have a flush balance of MSA dollars.
Yeah.
It's kind of a counterintuitive
And
thing.
I think, whereas what we did last time was, we didn't have the money to do the project, so
Yes.
we pulled it in. And that, to me, was
Yep.
playing with fire, but, yeah, okay.
My simple request was trying to use somebody else's money, similar to a grant, versus our own money.
I get it.
If I could just make 2 more comments that might help on it. This action is just to formally request the advancement of funds. It does not commit you to using. So there's still opportunity to say you don't want them, because it's a reimbursement program. So as we get into the project, we can just draw, it's called encumber, the funds as we feel necessary to make the project viable for the city. So there's no commitment on this side. However, we can only draw as much as we ask for today. That's our cap, if you will.
Okay.
The other thing I was going to mention is, albeit it's not a huge influence on it, but any balance in your account actually lowers your allotment for the future year, because if you're seen to have money, it reduces your needs, if you will. So having a lower balance is actually a benefit for the allotments. In fact, there's penalties that incur if your balance gets too high to incentivize that low balance. So maintaining a low balance will actually gain us some additional funds next year.
Use it, lose it, right?
Well, you don't lose it, but you get less. So,
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's almost, less than. Any other comments about F?
No, thank you for clarifying that. That was helpful.
Okay.
Motion to approve, item F.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I skipped that part. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any more comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. F carries 5-0. Now we are on to open forum. Limited to 3 minutes for non-agenda items. State your name and address. No council action will be taken. Items will be referred back to staff. Anybody here for open forum? forward.
Good evening, council and staff. Freight 40, 11821 Stone Ridge Road. I'd like to address the city council and staff to consider changes to some of the city ordinance involving outdoor RV storage. Specifically, R2 lots, 90,000 square feet, 2+ acres, which is my neighborhood. I brought parking code violations of several of my neighbors to the city in September 2022. I am currently working with my 5th city staff member to get the parking ordinance enforced. The city did send out letters to some non-compliant residents, and a few have corrected their infractions. The majority have not. The ordinance you have in front of you, 130.05, states equipment or motor vehicles which are inoperable, not currently licensed, or generally is not being driven. D, items which are not generally or normally used on the particular premises. H, accumulations of any items that tend to cause an unsightly appearance of the premises and which cause discomfort for any other members of the public who may be using their own or public property. This ordinance was deemed unenforceable by Zach Dow, the current city administrator. It's been in effect for decades. We need to determine if in fact this ordinance is 1, unenforceable, 2, can be amended to where the city thinks it is enforceable, or 3, strike the whole ordinance from the books. Let's move on to ordinance 1001.19, parking provisions in residential districts. Subdivision 3, section B, parking setbacks. Number 1, front yard, off-street parking shall not be located in required front yards unless located on a designated driveway leading directly into a garage or one surfaced space located on the side of the driveway adjacent to the dwelling meeting the required setback. The extra space shall be surfaced as required in subsection 1001-14, which basically says an impervious surface, concrete or bituminous. Let me just boil it all down here. My neighbors and I don't like to look at RVs, which I'll call toys, stored in grassy areas of lots, making muddy ruts, detracting from the neighborhood. And we don't like to look at driveways full of RVs. The public nuisance ordinance talks about unsightly appearance and causing discomfort. My home and my neighbor's home value is being affected, I believe. I also saw something in another ordinance language that talks about visual pollution. Can we look at having RVs stored behind the house, garage, or accessory building and require screening to block the view from the street? The council recently approved an interim use permit, or maybe it was a CUP for a home business, and that required 6-foot opaque fence made of wood or vinyl for improved screening for adjacent residential uses. The parking ordinance already requires screening of parking facilities for multifamily dwellings and screenings for non-residential uses in residential districts. Can we look at screening requirements for RV storage? I really don't care if RVs are stored on an unimproved surface, as long as they're out of sight. I don't care how many RVs people want to own. I just don't want to look at them as I drive to my house. Hiding them in the rear yard facing or with fencing, so they're behind fencing, starts to make the uniforms look uniform. Ordinances are like an HOA for the city, setting standards for how neighborhoods should look. If you build a home in Dayton, you're required to meet standards. You have to be so many feet back from the street, the side yard. You can't have a 5-story house. Your roofing and siding materials have to meet standards. These are standards so neighborhoods look uniform and pleasing. Finally, can we resolve the ordinance enforcement issue? The enforcement mechanism is broken in the city of Dayton. I'd like to read Ordinance 10.98, Administrative Enforcement of City Code. A, the purpose of this chapter of the City Code is to establish a procedure for administrative enforcement of violators of the City Code. C, administrative citation. Number 1, individuals authorized to enforce city code. The following individuals may issue administrative citations on behalf of the city. A, any officer of the Dayton Police Department. B, fire chief. C, fire marshal. D, public works supervisor. E, city administrator. F, any other employee or agent of the city designated in writing by the city administrator. I've tried to get enforcement of the parking ordinance for almost 2.5 years. Can I get an assurance from the city council and staff that this matter will be addressed in a timely fashion?
You're gonna have to wrap it up here pretty soon.
That's it.
Okay.
Comments or questions?
It will be referred back to staff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else here for open forum? Anybody online?
So if you wanted to speak in open forum, if you can use the raise your hand function. I'm not seeing any.
Okay, we will close open forum. Staff consultant, council updates, Zach.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I don't have any updates for you tonight. Thank you very much.
Amy?
I do not have any updates as well.
Marty?
I have a couple. The Wellfall rehab is on pause with this cold weather. We can't be pumping grout at this time of year. So they're hoping to be back on site next Wednesday, and then the temps seem to be more amenable.
And what was remaining there? They were going to pull the sand out?
There's still sand in there. We're going to use that as a base to pressure the grout back up into the crack. So it's pressurized grouting that we're doing. So the sand is forming the base for that. And then once that's done, we'll drill the well out again and then suck all the sand back out.
Okay.
Parks, the well work for the irrigation is set to begin on Thursday and Friday this week. The RFP interviews with the Parks Commission went well. They recommended 2 candidates for council's consideration at the next council meeting. At next council meeting, you'll be seeing bid documents for the park improvements from 2024. We had a kick-off meeting with DNR to discuss the project at the Historic Village boat landing, just to see what the requirements were for the DNR, what they were expecting out of the project, and confirm that they're paying for the whole project, and that is still the case.
Do we have any plan from them yet about what they're doing?
We are developing the plans for them and doing the build for them. We're working in coordination with those guys. They just don't have the staff or resources to manage the project.
Yeah, I get that, but did they have some overall goals, scope, or what?
That's what we're working through at the moment. It's going to be based on a lot of survey work and the relocation. We're doing, a bathymetric study to look at the below the surface topography.
Sure. Okay.
So that'll define where we can put it, what happens to the silt and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I have an update on Engine 11 that we have provided to the city of Ukraine. I've been notified that it has arrived, and then I have a short video showing some of that was sent to us. So the city in Ukraine that it was delivered to, if I can pronounce it correctly, is Bazvika Village. So they're greatly appreciative. I thought it was helpful to share this with the council, so thank you for assisting with that.
Thanks.
Thanks for doing that. It bothered me that we had that sitting there and no plan to use it, so it's great to see that it went somewhere that somebody can make some use of it. Thank you.
Evening, Mayor, members of council. Just to let you know, officers last week attended officer-involved shooting with Rogers, kind of a joint deal where they learn the protocol if they're involved in an officer-involved shooting, what occurs from the time the shooting happens to the end of the deal. We'll try to incorporate that with whoever shows up for council on July 16th, so you will go through the gamut that an officer goes through when you're involved in an officer-involved shooting.
Nice.
For the February 25th, we're planning a work session with the Planning Commission to discuss the A3 district. That's all.
Jason? No updates here.
Good.
I'm good.
Good.
One thing I wanted to bring up for us to potentially look at here in the near future, it comes up way too often about notification of residents around changes or zoning changes or things that require a public hearing. We've got that 500-foot rule, and I was surprised to hear that the state only requires 350 feet. So it's our ordinance that dictates the 500 feet, and it seems like we miss people almost every time, and it gets to be frustrating for residents. So I'd like us to change whatever ordinance that is written in, but so I guess potentially a future agenda item for us to review that ordinance.
Was that another council member
I
like
thought
that?
we talked about that.
We have a
Passed.
couple times.
Nothing's happened.
I think we need to somehow formalize it, but
We need to change the ordinance is what I'm getting out of it, yeah.
yeah, I guess I was surprised to hear that too, that it was ours. I thought ours was the state statute, but yeah.
We do larger than state statute
Right.
based on the fact that we have larger lots typically. That's why we
It's
have
just-
them larger, but
Yeah.
I think the answer, and unfortunately it always happens, is no matter what feet you pick, you're gonna
You're gonna miss
somebody.
the next person.
Yes, and the next person is gonna
You know what it is though, really, is it's also the volume. I mean, where I'm at is 200 feet,
Doesn't
that's
cover much.
one property.
Yep.
Whereas, in the developments, 500 feet's a lot of property, so I don't know how but we should talk about that.
Sounds good. Yeah, we'll put that in our notes.
It may be based on the zoning too, right? Like an R,
Sure.
like the notification doesn't have to be the same for all of the city. So in the egg districts, it might be larger than in the R1, right?
Sure.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at the time when that ordinance was passed, I don't think we had any of those R3 districts that I'm aware of, so we think it was just a generic 500 feet, but
Yeah.
doesn't mean that's right or wrong.
Correct.
That's all for me.
Nothing for me.
Okay, we are on to presentation. Sheriff Witt.
Put you on here.
Yeah, she can go, but you want to go up the dais, you want to control the thing, you can, otherwise I can run it for you, whatever you'd like.
I think that's what I'm gonna do.
You can run with the arrows there. On the arrows there, right or left. There you go. Yep.
These chairs are better than the ones we have in our office. You'll learn real quick about me as I am hilarious. I don't do boring, so just bear with me. Just start whenever?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have at it.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief, for having me here tonight. Dewana Witt, Hennepin County Sheriff. Just wanted to take some time to talk to you about what the Sheriff's Office is doing, let you know about our strategic plans, and then also leave time for questions if you have any questions regarding our office and what and why we're doing the things that we're doing. So we have our 2025 presentation here. During that presentation, please feel free to stop me or ask me any questions at any time, okay? So just a brief overview of myself. Elected in 22, took office in 2023. Have about almost 25 years now in law enforcement. I actually started my career off at Hennepin County Sheriff's Office as a detention deputy. Then spent 16 years at the Dakota County Sheriff's Office. coming back to Hennepin in 2019. And lo and behold, running for sheriff, which was not a part of my plan, just so you know. But prior to that, I was in nonprofit. My original degree is chemical dependency family therapy, and I worked with families that was dealing with those challenges. So I wasn't a person who knew that I would always come into this field. It just kind of found me. My mother, grandmother, wife, even though they never see me anymore, but I still sure that they're there for me. And so with that being said, I grew up in Hennepin County. I'm from South Minneapolis. It just felt right for me to run for this office to do the job that I'm doing, as that is the community that I grew up in. And no doubt that I'm the right person right now for this job. Instead of talking about everything that's on there, yes, I am still also an adjunct professor. I do really believe in making sure that I am a part of our new people that are coming in and making sure I do my part to educate. But just a vast career. What you don't see on there is, like, during all of these times, as with Hennepin, Dakota, also have 7.5 years part-time with Ramsey County. So I have the trifecta of all the county jobs, but also working this year, be 20 years as a state fair police officer, working part-time as a transit police officer in the U of M police department as well. So currently at the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, we have about 830 full-time staff. But we are not unlike a lot of other agencies where we are facing shortages, and that's from our civilians to our sworn staff. No, we're not having the numbers that Minneapolis has, not even close. But when you think about the statutory requirements of the sheriff, when you think about county-wide jurisdiction, the numbers that we have are impacting the work that we do. I am happy to say, though, we've recently had some success with recruiting. If I would have gave this presentation about a month and a half ago, I would have told you that we were down about 35 licensed deputies. As of today, we're down about 17 licensed deputies. But one of the statutory mandates also of the Sheriff's Office is the jail, which is where, as we've seen in public, there's been a lot of issues there with staffing. But 6 weeks ago, I would have told you we were down 40. Right now, I'm down 24. So there's been a lot of work going into recruitment. But we also know that there's also, once you get people there has to be a retention part of that. Since taking office, the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office has typically had 5 bureaus. We now have 6. And the reason we have 6 is because we added the Public Affairs Bureau. Something that's important to me, not just because of this job, it's just something that's ingrained in me, is making sure that we have a team that is consistently out there building relationships in the community. They're not a part of like our deputies that are taking calls. People often ask, what can we do different? How can we make sure we're better prepared? Well, we start that by not acting in a reactive way, but being proactive and making sure that when there's trouble, because there will be, that you already have those relationships built. And it's the community that are the allies of the agencies. It's when communities know who their first responders are, they speak for that agency. So that was something important to me to add that bureau. I also had to separate, when I was the major before the sheriff. And as the major, I had the biggest bureau because it encompassed courts, which are 7 courthouses in Hennepin County, as well as the jail. That was a lot of work for one person. So since becoming sheriff, what I did is I dissected that, and now we have a major that oversees just the jail, because that is a beast all in itself. There are so many issues that come along with the jail, and not to mention that we have the largest, most populated jail in the state. And then knowing since 2020 and everything that's happened then, some of the things that have increased are like our civil services, which is also a statutory mandate of the sheriff. So taking our civil out of patrol, so patrol can focus on patrol functions, and adding that with our transport unit, our hospital, extradition. So there's been a lot of working and moving people around and moving our sections around, which I believe that stuff was sent out today to various agencies so that they would know that. But it's based off of the needs of what we're seeing in our communities, and also making sure that I uphold that statutory mandate of the sheriff to hold peace within the county, not just the city of Minneapolis, but the county as a whole. So, of course, we have our investigations unit, which includes things like votive and our major crimes. Also our administrative services, which is our professional standards training. And then, excuse me, our public safety, which is dispatch and patrol. But when we take all of those things and I say that we're responding to what we're seeing as the needs of the community, we got to talk about the challenges that we're facing as far as the profession of law enforcement. As I mentioned before, teaching, I'm still an adjunct teacher. I could tell you 2 years ago I had classes that were single-digit numbers. This semester I have 22 students. Last semester I had 30. So me personally, and then talking to my colleagues in the professional field, we are seeing a rebound. It's not fast enough for what we know our shortages are throughout the state, but I feel optimistic because I'm seeing a rebound just on that personal note in that aspect. But then when we talking about having enough officers, law enforcement in the communities, again, going back to where I said we have to put ourselves in positions to be proactive and not reactive. And that's why it's important for all of us, not just the sheriff's office, all of our agencies, to make sure that we have the right amount of people and the right people to do that job so that we are consistently building those relationships. I fully recognize that, as soon as you lose those community connections and you lose residents' trust, it's so much harder getting it back. So why lose it in the first place? So putting that focus on the front end is, again, very important to me. I also recognize that some people say we're rebuilding police trust. And we also got to recognize in some neighborhoods it never existed before. We recognize that if one person screws up, no matter what agency, it affects all of us. So we're in this together, and so that's how I see it, as a collaborative effort and making sure we're looking out for each other. It doesn't matter how big, how small an agency, a city, a township is. We're in this together. The other thing is talk about is the strategic priorities, and I believe those packets were given to you all, correct? But, okay. The violent crime reduction, I've been asked many times, it's like, okay, you keep saying you're short-staffed. How is it that you started an auto theft team? I don't know if anybody knows, but Hennepin County has an auto theft problem. In case you didn't hear, newsflash, right? That's a true thing. But, okay, part of it is me being competitive with Sheriff Fletcher. Yes, he touts the stats that they're having, but it was just the right thing to do. When I talked about our numbers of increasing, one of the things that surprised me, I shouldn't say, it did surprise me, is that the number of people, seasoned investigators that came from other agencies to help with this problem, the common theme there was they like the fact that we're doing something about what's going on out there, and the fact that the leadership that they're seeing. And so that helped attract people to start those new I guess you can say departments, if you will, like for our auto theft team, where it's all seasoned investigators, which is something that we needed, because that's the other thing we got to think about is oftentimes right now we're young and there's a lot of experience going out the door, whether it's retirement or people that are just done with the profession in general. But violent crime was non-negotiable, because everything that we do, work, live, visit, everything goes around, what is the crime like? Everybody's asking that question, and it is our job to make sure that people feel as safe as possible. While most, we know that it's been said that most violent crime decreased from 23 to 24, the fact of the matter is we're still higher than pre-pandemic. And so there's just not a time for us to take our foot off the gas. And as we know, while law enforcement has to play by rules and boundaries, criminals do not. So we got to make sure that, again, that we are giving our people everything that they need to combat the people who are preying on the most vulnerable communities, all communities. One of the things I would like to talk about too, just shortly, is in 2024, our Violent Offender Task Force, our Southwest Hennepin Drug Task Force, as well as the West Metro Task Force, seized over 17 pounds of powder of fentanyl. It opened over 1,500 cases, and 256 of those made felony charges. Last year, what I talked to people about was, in the first 6 months, confiscating enough fentanyl that could potentially kill every person in Hennepin County. We have a problem. right? And this is not just a Minneapolis problem. It's not a first-ring suburban problem. It's all of our problems. And so making sure, again, that we are having those collaborations, working with our partners and doing everything that we can to combat people that are preying on our Minnesota nice, basically. Which brings me into the opioid overdose prevention. We recently started, I shouldn't say recently, we started a program called Focus on Fentanyl. I will tell you that I have a student advisory board, which also consists of kids from the Rogers-Dayton's area as well. It's 10th through 12th graders all through Hennepin County. But so that advisory board and then the Focus on Fentanyl, what initiated that is that a mom came to visit me who lost her 17-year-old son to fentanyl overdose. She was upset because she felt like that she wasn't getting help from first responders, from the police department, elected officials, if you will. She said everybody sees her son as a drug addict, when in fact Seth was an athlete who had an injury that accidentally became addicted. And she lost her son, and she was very frustrated. She's like, nobody will listen. All they think he is an addict. And so that's how we initiated our Focus on Fentanyl program, which also brought me in contact with another mom who lost her 15-year-old, who talked about how she may be the one who took her daughter to McDonald's to meet the dealer who her daughter met on Snapchat. This mother thought her daughter was going up to her room just to watch TV. When she went to check on her daughter was going through an overdose, and she called 911. This mother, who was asked by dispatch if she had Narcan, did not know what Narcan was. So our focus on fentanyl is not only about enforcement, but it's also about prevention and education. It has to be. That mother who will every day think that if I knew what that was, could I possibly save my 15-year-old? And so it's, again, answering to those public safety calls, okay, what part can I do? And education is a part of it, because in fact we have a lot of kids that, I shouldn't say a lot, that is speaking very general, but think that they might be taking something such as like Adderall or something like that and taking fentanyl. So the whole opioid overdose prevention, again, is not just about enforcement, which we do, and when we find dealers, we submit charges for murder if somebody dies, as we should. I feel very strongly about that. But making sure we're doing our part, because we understand we're law enforcement, but our jobs are actually public safety, right? Law enforcement is just one of the actions that we do. And then when we talk about programming, so Hennepin County Jail, again, being the largest jail, most populated jail in the state. Just because you guys cough now, I feel like I got it. I said it's all about collaboration. No. So 80% of the people that goes to the Hennepin County Jail, which is a pretrial facility, do go back into the communities. And that's before the term revolving door became a popular term. It's a pretrial facility. And so it's like, while I have their attention, while they're there away from whatever stressors or addictions or whatever they have, that is one of the best places that you can provide programming. And so we have our program called HOPE, Helping Others by Providing Education. We do offer people the opportunity to get GEDs, diplomas, job readiness skills, and things like that. To me, it is very important that jail time is not just dead time. How do we stimulate people's mind? And also we know that there's studies out there that says the more programming you have in a facility, the less likely you are to have inmate-to-inmate fights or inmate-on-staff fights. So that is something that we are very adamant about, and there's also now 3 or 4 sheriff's offices within Minnesota that have joined that HOPE program, which they call Ignite. Because we're in Hennepin County and Minneapolis, I said Ignite would not be the best term for us to use. Kind of smart sometimes. And so we did not do that. And then again, I already talked about the auto theft, being an initiative, and that was, we have a huge problem with auto theft. A lot of it's related to juveniles, and making sure that we do what we can do, not only to prevent, because we don't know, we can't be everywhere where these cars are being stolen, but the impact that it puts on a family for the amount of time their car is gone, or then it goes to the impound lot. We do pretty much process almost all of our cars if there's something that we should, which is not something that every agency does. And depending on how those cases are prosecuted, we'll determine if we continue to do that, because it's very time consuming. As you know, we do have our own crime lab for Hennepin County. And then again, the strategic priorities around recruitment and retention. It's one thing to get people there, but it's another to keep them. Today, in fact, spending time at the Capitol speaking with multiple legislatures about incentives and what they can bring to the profession or what can be offered to the profession to keep people here. It's not just a job, it's a career. And so making sure that I'm understanding I am not a politic, but apparently I got a politic, right? and speaking for the profession, and not just thinking about just now, but who are the people that come behind us? Recruitment and retention is hand in hand. And it should actually say hiring, recruitment, and retention. And then the community outreach, as I spoke to before, I don't like to be reactive, I like to be proactive, because it's when things go bad, not if, that you have to be prepared for when that happens. And that means being in front of things and building those relationships and not asking people for forgiveness or to understand after whatever bad thing happens. So the next slide, I think, is about activity that we've had in Dayton for 2024. So those are listed right up there. If there's any questions on that, we'll just leave that one up there, Tim. And that's all I had to present, but I do, again, want to leave myself open for any questions in regards to the sheriff's office, because I understand that I might not have hit a question that somebody may have. Thank you.
Anybody have any?
Thank you. I appreciate that you mentioned that you're not the sheriff of Minneapolis, and just to encourage you to being out here on the fringes of Hennepin County, that we're not forgotten.
I will tell you, again, having that trifecta of the Ramsey County experience, the 16 years with Dakota County, I think in a lot of ways Dakota County has prepared me for this job, because knowing, again, the importance of those relationships, no matter how big or small a city is very important, and they prepared me for that, and that's something I extend. So you have me as your partner, whether you want me or not.
Well, thank you for your attention. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilman.
Can you talk a little bit about the facial recognition software and how you still protect individual rights, like how you're using that data, how you're storing that data, to make sure it isn't misused?
Right. So, people could not believe that I wanted to take an offensive approach on putting out facial recognition, because we are one of few agencies that do use it. The way that we utilize it is it's a tool. So when we're talking about storing information, we don't technically store it. It's that those facial recognitions are pulled from public databases that already exist. And again, it is a tool to help put detectives in the direction of where they should or should not be looking. That is not this is automatic and this is this person. There's still investigative work that has to be done on that tool. It is something, again, that we've actually received praise for, because we put out our policy. It is a good model to have. And if I could just tell you the number of cases that it has affected, or as we're talking about staffing shortages, the amount of time it would take people to know which direction to take without that is it's very time consuming. It's my understanding now that it's at the Mall of America too. It's not, they would have to use the same public databases we use to derive that. And again, I think what's most important is you think of it as a tool. It is not the bottom line that this is or this is not a person. There's still work that has to be done on that.
Thank you very much.
It lowers the workload.
I'm sorry?
It lowers the workload.
It does lower the workload, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Thanks for coming.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sweet.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
You good?
Thank you for your time, appreciate it.
Sheriff in the council?
Sure.
We're doing a photo.
By the way, I hate photos and I hate public speaking. So.
Yeah.
Yep, we're good.
Are we
If
on?
you can get us all in.
1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That'd be great, thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay, that was G. We are on to item I. This is yours, John, or was this?
Thank you, sir. Real briefly, the EDA is requesting a workshop with the council for a closed session to discuss the tax forfeiture properties. So if the council's agreeable, this would also be held on February 25th,
Did you say also?
in addition to the Planning Commission workshop,
So what time would our meeting start?
5 p.m.
I don't know if we'll be able to do both.
I was gonna say, I don't see how both can happen in an hour and a half.
Mayor, council, the staff needs direction on if the council would like to entertain a closed session with the EDA related to the two tax forfeiture properties we have in town, one of which is the down on Dayton Parkway, referred to as the Triangle, as everyone may or may not know. And the other one is in the historic village, down, I think it's Robinson Circle or
Robinson
Street,
Yeah.
Circle?
It's on the east side.
Yes, in the east center.
East
So
Robinson.
the question is we don't want to schedule a meeting if the council is like, no, we're not happening. That's why the conversation is coming up.
Well, regarding the triangle, do we have numbers to work with? Because if we get in there and we don't have numbers to work with, we're wasting our time.
What do you mean numbers to work with?
To make these decisions, to decide whether, we should go this route or that route, or.
We have information from a while ago. They don't have current information. Based on the last time this was brought up, which was about a year
ago.
And some change ago.
But I
maybe.
thought they had looked at a marketing company or a real estate company, and they were coming up with scenarios, numbers, et cetera.
Yeah,
You say they, you mean
number
the
one, I
EDA?
don't want to talk numbers at all, but
Yeah.
the numbers are all over the board.
Well,
And I don't think until we get solid numbers, I mean, it doesn't even pay to go get the numbers if the council's not even going to entertain trying to do something.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's the, well, I don't know if that's the whole intent, but certainly I think there needs to be alignment between the EDA and the council
Yes.
on how to move forward with any of those properties.
Okay.
And, I don't think we've had that conversation as a group.
But wasn't there direction given at the last EDA meeting to go and get updated numbers? I received 2 phone calls from members of the EDA that was their understanding, was that we were receiving updated numbers, or they had tasked a broker or someone to go and get
That's-
some
No,
updated
so
numbers?
that would be us ordering an appraisal, and that was not directed.
There was an appraisal done here probably a year and a
Yeah,
half
it was a
ago.
year and a half ago.
I guess,
something like that.
based on those conversations that I had, maybe that's where the disconnect is, because the conversations that I had led me to believe that they believed that was being done, and they were hoping to have those updated numbers before the 25th meeting. Or that was what 2 different members of the EDA said to me. So I guess maybe we need to kind of close that gap of if we're trying to get updated numbers, if that's something that they're thinking that we are doing ahead of this meeting.
I guess, so this probably falls on David Scott. Do you guys think there's enough information to even talk about this?
Well, here's how I'll approach this. To me, we can't really approach it if all of a sudden, first off, EDA doesn't have enough funds to buy the thing. And is council in favor of doing a bridge loan if the numbers work?
Okay.
The other thing,
That's fine.
the other thing that comes to play is where is everybody going to be comfortable? I mean, I have a number in mind where I think the property needs to be purchased at in order to make anything work out.
See, that's what I mean. It sounds like there's really two things that need to be decided.
There's been market numbers shared with Zach, and there's been EDA attorney numbers shared with council. Those numbers,
Probably different.
Well, they're different, obviously, and in my opinion, both of them numbers are way out of line to where it even makes sense to even do anything.
The other piece is that that particular parcel's in the city's name.
Yeah.
And so the EDA can't move on it.
So we would have to
on their
decide
own.
something.
The council has to be involved in that approval, has to make that approval.
Right. And I don't think that the EDA can go and try and negotiate a number unless EDA knows that council's in support of even the whole
Sure.
idea.
Yep, no, I get that. So that almost sounds like it'd be a shorter meeting.
And yeah, I don't think it's gonna be that lengthy. The other thing is everybody needs to understand if the property takes a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it takes to sell, if something does happen. I mean, there's no guarantee there's a buyer
Yeah.
in the next 6 months.
Yep, that's correct.
I feel, I mean, personally, I would think that if the council does borrow money in an interfund loan, to me, there should be an interest number labeled to that, just because all of a sudden, a year and a half from now, if all of a sudden the city needs some extra money and we gotta go bond for it, it's gonna cost us money because we don't have that borrowed money.
Mhm.
So I think that's part of the conversation also.
Okay.
So,
I
yeah, so
guess-
what staff needs direction on tonight is if there's a majority of the council that would like to have that conversation with the EDA. That is what this request is of the staff tonight. Of staff, I should say, not of staff.
There's another thing there is, I do believe that one person from EDA can't go and negotiate this number. I think there needs to be a committee that 2 or 3 or 4 people that go and do that.
Yeah, but those kind of details could be hammered out. I think that there's a couple bigger questions, and that is,
To me, we come up with a flat line number that,
Yeah.
okay, we're interested if it stays this or below.
yes,
If it's above that, forget it.
I guess I'd be okay with a work session.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I don't know about timing.
Yeah, the timing
if
is
it
the issue. I don't want both on the
works or not,
25th.
But I really feel like it's necessary that we have that discussion with the EDA so that we leave that meeting in alignment on how to move forward or not move forward.
We can work on time.
Staff will work on timing, yep.
Are we good then?
Yep.
All right.
Do we need a motion in a second, or is it just a direction?
Just a direction.
I got head nods, yeah.
Okay, that was item I. Item J, North Diamond Lake Road Trail Crossing. Extension.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Today, we're looking at a trail extension going across North Diamond Lake Road near River Road. So a while back, even a year ago, the Parks Commission identified some priority trail segments. One of those identified was the connection as shown on the screen, essentially between the Ione Gardens neighborhood and the Pineview Meadows neighborhood as shown. So how that fits into the trail map, this is an existing trail map shown by the solid lines. The dashed lines are planned trails throughout the city. The red is what we're looking at here, so it's the connection between those two existing systems. And just
The large red, right, Jason?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the wide red,
Yep.
yes, yep. So just to note, this does complete the entire connection between Elsie Stevens and Elm Creek Park. The crossings being at least controlled intersections. So just a zoomed in view of that, the Ione Gardens neighborhood and then Vinewood, which then eventually gets to Pineview Meadows, and Ione Gardens adjacent to Cypress Cove, River Hills, Diamond View Estates, and Riverwalk, which has the underpass to Elsie Stevens Park. So what we're looking at for improvements is a trail extended along the north side of Diamond Lake Road with the crossing taking place just west of, I know it says Diamond View, North Diamond Lake Road on the map, but I'm going to call it Vinewood. So that's the connection off to the, I'll say the bottom left, or sorry, bottom right corner. So the crossing would be just west of that connection. We have been in contact with Hennepin County. They are supportive of a crossing at this location. in all honesty, quite to my surprise, but they are supportive of us doing it, given that there's a pedestrian landing constructed in there, which is a pretty significant improvement, but it's very much, and I think I put a picture in the staff report, like the John Quill crossing on 129th Avenue. It would be, I'd say, nearly identical to that. So it does include some road widening to accommodate, because it's an additional 10 feet of pavement, and then you need the tapers for the traffic. So it's a pretty lengthy section of road that needs to be widened, but it can be accomplished through the area from the information we have today. So I did break this down in two different categories, if you will, for costs, and you'll see why on the next slide. This was shared with the Parks Commission as well, so I'm using the same information just so you're hearing the same information they did, making a decision to move forward with the project. The trail crossing, I'm going to just call that the east-west portion along the roadway as shown. Basically the east-west red line on there, and then the crossing would be the cost associated with that pedestrian landing in the middle, and then the crosswalk enhancements that might be included with that. And just to note, we do have costs in here for the flashing lights, much like by Dayton Elementary. In the past, such as John Quill, the county did not allow us to install that. So we did have $70,000 in there for that. So just to note that it would be that $70,000 of that $412,000. Whether or not we can put it in, we haven't determined yet.
Can I ask why the county was against it?
So to call it a crosswalk, it has to meet their crosswalk warrants, which means you need a certain number of users to show up at the crossing over a given time span.
Okay.
If it doesn't meet that warrant, it's technically not a crosswalk, and you don't sign it or put down striping.
Okay, thank you.
So it's kind of a chicken and egg in my mind. So,
Yeah.
but so the reason these are separated out, and again, this is the information shared with the Parks Commission. So I think council's probably aware that there's a intersection improvement plan for 2029 at this intersection. We all suspect it to be a roundabout at that, which means it would be a controlled intersection, which would accommodate pedestrian crossings on each of the legs. So we did make or present the option of waiting with the project, if you will, and incorporating the crossing into that project, thinking that there might be a potential cost savings with that. So what that would look like, instead of doing the widening and the crossing at Vinewood, instead the trail would be extended towards River Road and then utilize the median that is just part of the roundabout anyway as the crossing. So it would be a longer trail but an easier crossing of the road. So that's why the costs were broken down. So the trail connection, that remains unchanged. So that's the $585,000 is our preliminary estimate. The trail crossing certainly goes down from the 400 and, I forget what we had, 412,000 down to 235. And just to note on that, and I left my mistakes in here so you could see the difference between that. I was thinking it was an 80-20 split with the county. If the trail was to be built, I actually think their cost share on a non-existing trail is 50-50. I think that's, so I had that incorrect when I talked to the Parks Commission. I thought of it as I was presenting it, and then I verified and added that after. So the cost share changes a little bit. So the trail crossing at 235 estimated, it'd be 50-50 with the splitting with the city, which is the total project of 820,000, and then the city's portion of that would be 702. I ran through that quick. I have a summary of that though, if you didn't quite follow that. So the crossing in 2025, if we were to move forward with the project now, we're estimated at 997,000. If the project waits to 2029 and is done in conjunction with the county project, we estimate the city's portion to be 702,000. So the question posed to the Parks Commission was, is the additional, I had said 365, I corrected myself and said it'd be closer to 300. So the question is $300,000 worth it to have the project in 2025 versus waiting until 2029? And we presented the options. We could either move forward at this time, we could wait and coordinate in 2029. I did give a third option, not real popular, just to construct the east-west portion and not the crossing today, so at least that portion of trail is there for the county project, and then the crossing accomplished at a later date. Thought being is it could either be an out and back, or you could walk to the end of the trail and then cross on your own, if you will. Their decision was that they thought it was worthwhile moving forward with the project in 2025. So they asked this be brought to council for consideration for a project this year. One thing that did come up, and this was after the Parks Commission, so this was a staff level, I believe, the potential for an alternative connection, which would save a whole lot of trail. So if we could extend the trail up between the homes and just connect them, it would be to a sidewalk, not another trail, but it would at least be a connection for pedestrians and users to go. A few notes on this. We did look at it preliminarily, just based on readily available info and record plans from the development. We're not sure if it can be accomplished due to grades and stormwater drainage, but it looks close. So we will investigate, see if this is even an option. But maybe even more importantly, this would require easements from the two property owners. And I don't know what the excitement will be for allowing a trail outside of bedroom windows. So we will certainly talk to them. The good part is there actually is a 10-foot wide, or I'm sorry, a 20-foot wide, I believe, easement through here because there's a water main extension between the homes.
Is that that yellow line?
No, it's the dashed.
Okay.
So I should have pointed this out. Just the rerouting of the trail through these homes. So there is an existing water main under there, so there is an easement, but the easement is limited to drainage and utility purposes. Meaning we can't put a trail there without getting a second easement or a redefined easement over that area. So good news is the space is there because it's there for the easement. The bad news is we don't have rights to it at this time, so it would take the agreement or the willingness from the property owners as well. We have not talked to them at this time, but figured this could all be, if we're moving forward with the project, we could open those discussions with the property owners, as well as collect field information of the area and make sure we can even construct the trail safely through there. But those would be included with the efforts.
Seems like the conversation is free, right?
The conversation would presumably free other than staff time.
Suspect.
So.
And do you think Three Rivers would have any interest here at all?
Not part of their regional trail system, so no. Yeah, they're limited on the other side of River Road,
right.
So they are involved with that one. But so just to recap, the Parks Commission did request council consider this for 2025. If council does wish to move forward, we did include an engineering proposal for the work. And then just to note, if you do want to move forward, work would only be completed under task 1, which is the design. You would not be committing full funds under that agreement. So effectively, it would be authorizing the preparation of plans and specifications. Again, we would look at the alternative route if it works out to go that way. That's what would be designed. Otherwise, we would go back with the original design. So that's all I have.
Can you go back to the second one where you wait till 2029? That one.
Yep.
Realistically, no one's going to go up to the roundabout. They're going to cut across. I mean, maybe if your mom is there with you, but if you're a kid on a bike, you're not going to go up to the roundabout. You're going to cut across.
Part of the reasoning behind just do the trail and not the crossing.
Yeah.
But would not promote it as a safe crossing, but it would be available for those that choose to do that.
My feeling is the same. If I was looking at that and I need to be across the street, am I going to go to the end? I also not sure that crossing at a roundabout is a safer way to get across.
Never like that.
No one knows how to drive in a roundabout.
No,
Let alone you're focused on merging this individual suddenly. I don't know.
And your GPS is telling you you're at the second one, and you're like, wait, is this the second one? Is this the third one? Where am I? And then you're looping 4 times, and you're not looking for no.
I've never found it that complicated.
I would like to see us move ahead with the previous version as this shows the crossing. I think that it's worth having the conversation with those homeowners. I think we know how that'll come out, but I think we should ask the question just to do our due diligence there, because it certainly would reduce the amount of trail that needs to be built.
Well, and we also don't know how those houses are laid out. Like if that's like, you know, depending on if it's your laundry room, you know what I mean? Like if it's in a bedroom, no, I don't want a trail going next to it, but if it's my laundry room, maybe I don't care so much.
It is the garage side on one. I mean, the house to the east, that's the
It kind of
garage
doesn't
side,
matter. I can tell you that people don't like trails by their houses. They like access to them. They
but
don't
At
like
least
them
one lot
by
away.
there. Yeah, they do. They don't want it in their backyard. They want it in the
I don't care if it's a neighbor, even not mine.
Did we determine on the south side that there's not enough right of way?
It'd be really challenging. Yeah, the grades are really tough through there. We have some pinch points on the north, but it's more so trees. There's some challenges on it. One of the lots, as you can see, where we kind of jog down, I mean, that's just shown schematically, but it's lack of property rights, and then there's also some significant trees through there as well. Again, to get a better handle on this, we need field information collected, but we can investigate the south, but I mean, even just based at preliminary looks, the cost would be significantly higher, and probably we would need additional land rights as well.
And the distance for that, the red trail before the pedestrian landing, roughly 700 feet?
From Berkshire?
Yeah.
I should know that, and I don't.
I can measure it.
I was
Thank
going to
you.
say, it's got to be not far from that. I mean,
That sounds like a
you know,
good guess.
to that end, it could be, you know, if you're talking to those homeowners, it could be that it may save us a lot of money to convince them that they should provide that trail.
You'd be acquiring the easement.
Yeah, what I'm getting at though is then, that saves us all that,
For sure.
that trail.
Oh, it's a
which is
significant
gonna be
savings.
significant.
Yeah.
And so if we can, you know, get some money in their pocket and save us
Yeah.
some money.
Yeah, when I mean acquiring it, I mean, it would be a purchase agreement. to
Yes.
the easement. So, yeah, that could be a negotiation of the.
And
of the
possibly
agreement.
like screening of some sort, like.
If there's space to,
depending-
absolutely, yeah.
Well-
Right over Marty's water.
There's a water main in there too, so we can't like go
Yeah.
crazy, but again,
And
within
it's-
reason.
I did measure, it's about 1,500 feet.
Oh, okay.
It's,
Further.
yeah, it's.
1,500 or 1,050?
1,500.
Oh.
1,500.
So, okay.
Oh, that's farther than I thought.
According to Hennepin County GIS.
If we were to, so the difference in what you're asking as far as design work goes, the 100K or so, what do you see changing there? If we decide to bail and wait till 2029, does that alter much of what you're doing?
No, to be honest, well, I mean, no, I mean, in fact, essentially none of it would be lost because we will
Okay.
be surveying that
the
corridor
same
up to
stuff.
there.
Okay.
It'd be the coordination between the two, I guess, would be the potential
So we're not losing money
duplicated
doing
work
this
maybe.
upfront, sounds like.
But-
No. And also, you know, just to remember that we deferred on another trail because of that 2029
Yeah.
road improvement, and this was the alternative, or second highest priority. I feel like, you know, we want to be making progress on trails in the city, and this gets rid of another dead end, so
This opens, yeah, it connects.
this actually
This-
accomplishes something, so I think it's,
I don't know if I have an
It
issue
kinda
with
stands
the
on-
412, because in 4 years it'll be 550.
Oh, sure.
Construction costs are gonna go up.
Yeah.
It's, no.
I'm okay moving forward.
motion
Just say-
to approve the design work necessary for,
With a
I don't know, I'll
comment.
call it option A, with the crossing.
Yes, yep.
I'd still have the conversation with the homeowner.
Oh, for sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
either one of them two yellow lines, I don't know if you can get if you go back to that deal.
Or even the ones just to the north of that too.
Just to the north of that, there's that lot right there. Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Up here.
Right there.
right there, that
Oh.
seems wider.
Yeah, it looks like there is space. Yeah, this one, I mean, we just figured because of the water main,
Right,
that
right.
area is already protected.
I'd have both
Yeah,
conversations.
we could look at the alternate. There's some storm sewer challenges right through here
Oh.
that we think we can accomplish getting it safely through there. We're hoping with meeting ADA requirements, but
And again,
We'll look
you know,
closer.
to me, that's gonna save us a lot of money. So if you can work that into the negotiations, it would help.
yeah.
I need a second.
Second?
Any more discussion?
I should have asked this earlier, but there is money in the trail fund to do this work.
Yep, I expected that question to come up. Councilmember Fashient, there is 2.7 million in the trail fund currently, so, yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Any more questions? Okay, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Carries 5-0. All right, we're on to item K. Interim use permit, 15430 Brockton Lane.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Tonight, you're asked to consider an interim use permit for a home extended business at 15430 Brockton Lane North. The applicants are John Herbis, Justine, and Mitch Fry. Just a little bit of context, the property is zoned A1 and is 10.93 acres in size. The request is an IUP for a home extended business for storage of materials, including sand, dirt, lumber for forms, dump trucks, 2 large and 1 smaller, trailers, and other ancillary equipment related to the business. The business is John and Jerry Asphalt and Concrete Services. The applicant has also noted that they would utilize 1 accessory structure, that eastern shed on the screen here, for maintenance. And up to 3 employees not living on the site would report to the site, load materials as necessary, and leave for a job site. So essentially, it'd be a staging area for a concrete and asphalt company. Some of the critical issues identified, one being the dump truck storage. The ordinance allows for 1 standard vehicle, which is under 12,000 gross vehicle weight as identified in the code associated with the business to be on site, and 1 vehicle not to exceed 18,000 GVW on site if stored indoors or significantly screened from the right-of-way and surrounding neighbors. And just for context, the average gross vehicle weight of a dump truck is 26,000 pounds. The applicant has stated that concrete and asphalt work is not conducted on site and is requesting for the opportunity to store the dump trucks that would be loaded at the start of the workday and utilized off-site. The applicant currently has 2 large dump trucks and 1 one-ton dump truck, which I believe has been identified as a F550 of some sort type. During the Planning Commission review, the Planning Commission acknowledged that this request is above and beyond what is standardly allowed by code for a home extended business related vehicles, and due to the limited use of vehicles on site, loading and dumping, the Planning Commission recommended that the 3 trucks that the applicant has is the recommended limit for this interim use permit, and additional vehicles associated with the home extended business would require an amendment at that point. And I think when the Planning Commission had done their review of the ordinance and the application, they reviewed this with the idea, or with the thought in mind that there is a section of the interim use permit for home extended business section that allows the city council the discretion to approve an interim use permit for home extended business above and beyond what the code standard is. So I think that was kind of their, that was at the forefront of their thought when they were discussing this.
And how'd that vote go, by the way?
I was getting to that, but it was a 3-2 vote recommending approval. Another issue that was a critical issue that was brought up during the Planning Commission meeting was the noise. It is understood that the loading and unloading of trucks will create noise during the act that might not be necessarily characteristic to the ag area along Brockton, and as well as the dump trucks having a backing up alarm when in use in reverse. Planning Commission did discuss this at length and noted that these noises are essentially a product of the proposed interim use. As such, the PC did recommend a condition that is above and beyond what the standard is allowed per the ordinance. in limiting the work hours on site to 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, whereas the code standard for home extended businesses would allow for 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. The Planning Commission held a public hearing at their January meeting. I believe that there was 5 residents that did come forward and speak, addressing concerns related to noise and visual nuisances for the proposed use. At the end of the conversation, it was a very robust conversation that the Planning Commission had. They ultimately recommended approval of the request at a 3-2 vote. 3-2 vote, subject to the following conditions. A 6-foot fence, opaque fence made of wood or vinyl shall be installed on the north property line to enhance the potential screening for the northern residential property or the neighbor. Existing stored items in connection with the interim use permit be relocated away from the north property line, and all interim use permit related materials are required to be stored on the south side of the easterly accessory building that is utilized for the home extended business. And I will just go back to the site plan that the applicant provided. Here's the area that was noted for aggregate material storage, while the remaining area would be proposed for truck and trailer parking.
And that green area, the elevation is quite a bit lower, right?
From my understanding and visiting the site back in, I believe, November, December, that is correct. And just for reference, when properties over 2.5 acres are requesting for an interim use permit, they are permitted to have outdoor storage limited to 20% of the site. Whereas this total area, and I think that I was being generous when I did the measurements from this area provided, is roughly 33,000 square feet, or about 3/4 of an acre, including the accessory structure on the property.
What's the red area? Oh, it's okay, truck and trailer park area. Okay.
There was discussion at the Planning Commission meeting about a driveway that had been installed and paved. That doesn't, at least I can't see it on these aerial pictures. I assume that's because they're older.
Yeah, you can actually see.
Describe where that is.
Once it gets back beyond where you can see here the eave of the westerly accessory structure, is where the paving starts to begin, and that's where it kind of goes down into that hole that the applicant is proposing to utilize for the storage.
So that would go around to the south side of the building then?
I do not believe that the paved area, and the applicant can surely confirm or deny this, but I do not believe that the entire area surrounding the accessory structure is paved.
I'm just trying to get my bearings there. Are we looking south in that view, or more or less south?
This area, I would say you're looking east, and then this area you'd be looking more, I would guess, southwest or more straight west. Might be southwest more than anything. But just to continue some of the conditions that were addressed and revised at the Planning Commission meeting, the home extended business equipment and materials be stored on site so not to be visible from Brockton Lane. Vehicle equipment operation, maintenance, use shall not occur on site outside of 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday. The use and storage of large dump trucks shall be limited to 2 large and 1 smaller dump truck. Any request for additional vehicle storage shall be reviewed and considered through an interim use permit amendment. Here's one that I believe the Planning Commission actually went above and beyond. The standard for the code for trips related to the home extended business per the ordinance is limited to 8. But given the request that there are potentially up to 3 employees that would visit the site, the Planning Commission did recommend a flexible 12 trips per day rather than 8. Going on to number 7, the interim use permit shall be valid for a period of 3 years from the effective date of this resolution, or shall expire when the business is relocated or the property is sold. I think the Planning Commission revised this from 5 years to 3 years because the property was purchased in 2022, And because this was an identified interim use that was non-conforming because it did not have a permit, they figured that the applicant has been operating prior to this point, and obviously that is the case since through our investigation we are here now today. And number 8, the city shall reserve the right to inspect the property during city business hours with at least a 24-hour notice provided to the property owner to verify continued compliance with the applicable provisions of the Dayton zoning ordinance and the conditions of approval. And then the standard language regarding non-compliance, where if we did an inspection and the property was found to not be in compliance, they would have 60 days to correct that. And if correction was not found to be resolved, a revocation hearing would be held at the city council level to revoke the interim use permit. Again, with these conditions of approval, the planning commission did recommend approval 3-2, and I do appreciate the planning commissioners who voted against, although they were still active in the conditions of approval discussion. So I appreciated that feedback.
Question that I have. On the north property line, there's a blacktop driveway. Do you know if that is set off of the property line, the proper setback?
It's certainly something that staff can verify. I believe that the standard for driveways in the Ag District is 10 feet from the property line.
And are we that far? Do we know that?
At this point, I don't know, but that could be certainly something that we can confirm.
Okay.
Are the red and green lines, well, what are they?
Yeah,
They're
so
there to confuse
this
you.
is a confusing image, but there is a discrepancy in this area on Hennepin County's GIS, and looking at survey documents, that green line is actually the property line, and the red line is what shows up on Hennepin County's GIS. So while you can see that per Hennepin County's GIS map, there is an encroachment of at least half of this accessory building on the property. That is in fact not the case looking at survey documents.
Yeah, I wondered about that because I'm assuming that corral is not being used either, but that seems to go over the Hennepin County line as well.
Correct.
Okay, so that's the actual property line, the green line.
The green line,
The
yes.
green line. Going back to the driveway, when you pave a driveway, do we require a permit for that?
Yes, a permit is required for that. And the standard procedure for working without a permit would be having them apply for a permit after the fact, and they would be charged double the fee of the permit cost.
Do we have a permit required if you replace a driveway?
Not if you replace it. It's really limited to expanding the curb cut or expanding the driveway to verify impervious surface. Calculations can still be met with any expansion.
If you're replacing one-to-one, no permit.
Right,
If you're
but
making it larger,
When does it
requires permit.
become
Then
a
it goes-
driveway? I mean, so we had a case last council meeting where somebody put in an area, I think it was a cement drive. It wasn't a driveway though, it was because it was back on the property. What decides if this is a driveway or not?
I would say that one of the things that can be considered when deciding whether this is a part of the driveway or not is if it's connected to the curb access from the start of the property or not. In terms of parking pads that are not attached to an existing driveway or a proposed driveway, those are treated in terms of the building permits as like a patio surface, someone pouring a patio in their backyard or something like that. And patios currently do not require a permit.
Right. Okay.
But I would say that because it's connected to the overall driveway area on the property,
You
it's
classified as a driveway.
Yeah, right along the north line of that property, there is a driveway going back along that row of evergreen trees. And my question would be is how far it is off the property line. I don't know that. And I guess what I'm seeing here is you know, I'm not saying it doesn't happen all over, but buy a piece of property, just start doing whatever I want to do and pay the price after it's checked up on. I would have I would have concerns with. To me, this is it's kind of a big deal. I mean, Public Works that's got to be a couple thousand feet from my building, and I can hear the trucks, the beeping. The tailgate slamming on a dump truck or something isn't that big a deal to me, but the backup beeping is a big deal.
I hear it
and
all day long where I'm at.
And with the house being 300 feet from the proposed backup area, that's going to be going on all day long. And from what I can see in some of the pictures here, there's been a lot of fill brought in to raise that property. Do we require a permit to fill your own low ground? I don't know if we do or not.
I don't believe so, no.
Yeah. What's to say all of a sudden on Tuesday, July 26th, that, I don't know if it's a Saturday or Sunday, but there's no way we're going to be able to control the 12 trips. It might be 25 trips on any particular day. If you got a big job and you're hauling a bunch of scrap fill back into the facility, that's where it's going to get dumped, and there might be 20 trips that day.
What did we do with the property down on 117th? You remember the landscaper? I mean, they had...
I wasn't around for that approval, but I do believe that they were allowed up to 15 employees in terms of their conditions of approval. Yeah. I don't know off the top of my head the exact number of trips allowed.
Do we have any more questions for staff?
The other thing, do we have fuel oil barrels or diesel barrels sitting on the property to where we're storing fuel?
I didn't see any when we were on site, but that's certainly something the applicant can verify for us. But I did not see any when we did a site visit.
Yeah.
And to your point, Councilmember Salonik, I did take a look at the setbacks to the north property, and that home is roughly 75 feet.
That's it?
Yeah, so as you can see there,
you
can see, the purple radius is essentially that 100-feet buffer that would have to be adhered to in terms of storage area. It's hard to obviously monitor the drive aisle in that area certainly, but the storage area of that of this proposed use would have to be outside of that purple radius.
And that previous drawing shows the storage area way outside of there, right?
Yes, I would say that not way outside, but I would say that it is outside.
Barely.
Well, that's got to be 50 plus feet. Okay. The applicant come forward, or you still have questions for staff?
I don't.
I have no questions for staff.
We ready for the applicant then? Yeah, right? You gonna come forward? Name and address?
Hello, my name is Justine. This is John. This is 15430 Brockton, Maine North. So this is for the permit to be presented to you after it was approved by both City Council, or Planning Commission, and City staff. So I understand that this is the final decision brought forward to you guys with, talking about the considerations. First, I want to lay out kind of what Hayden did, that this is intended for storage of vehicles, trailers, minimal material as sand, gravel, and dirt. It would be the 2 full dump trucks, the 550 truck. Typically, during the work season, it's going to be end of April to end of October, where staff will show up, grab the trucks, load them if necessary, leave for the day, and is off-site for most of the day. If there is potential extra material, they may stop in once a day, maybe 2 times a week, I've ever heard it, and drop off that material. But most of the time they're off-site doing this, park their trucks at night and leave. Off-season, so during the winter time, they're typically working in the shop. Trucks aren't running, skids aren't even running. and just maintaining tools and machinery.
We tried to put things down in bullet points here so we can save time, because the last meeting was very, very long, and Sarah can admit to this.
That's the planning commission.
What?
That's the planning commission.
Well, we're trying. And first of all, I want to thank John and Hayden for you guys to let you know that the city council has put these guys in charge of overseeing. They have been good to work with. They're very clear in directions of what we're supposed to do and what we're needed to go forward. So you guys have got a good team there going. So they brought things clear. At the planning commission, we met, and it was a long meeting. We looked at some of the main pieces of the concerns that they were looking for was visual impact and noise were addressed as the main issues. All the other issues like the fence, which will actually, let's talk about the fence. The fence will be a 6-foot fence on top of a ridge where the blue line will be. That's actually the high point between my neighbor and me. And so both of our properties, when you put that there, start to drop off on both sides. Where you see my building is actually another 14 feet lower than that fence will be. Daryl may not even see the barn that's sitting there the way the property is actually has with the aggregate of the property. We've been asked to put the materials that we are leaving on site, and we don't load our trucks daily. It's not cost effective. I go pick up material at where we're going to pick it up, and we go use it. If I have a little extra material, instead of throwing it away, once a day we may come and dump. And we're going to talk about that with also the visual piece. So visually, when we put up that 200-foot fence that's been asked by the Planning Commission, that will actually reduce any sight from the other property. So we look at, for addressing the concern about the trees, I have an arborist here on site that I've asked to come out and take a look at the property to make sure he takes a look at the health of the trees, that concern as well, to make sure we're caring about the environment. Noise. We looked at the banging of the gate keeps being brought up, and the banging of the gate only happens occasionally, once or twice a day at the most. That's also being addressed. We're looking at, I went and paid $2,500 to get vibrators installed in each of the trucks so that when we go to dump, it's vibrated and comes right out. So it reduces any chance of wanting to even bang the gate, making it also better for all the neighbors around us. So with that being said, we're looking at reducing that noise from the gates. I believe you asked about the driveway being put in. It's not been paved. What it's been is a little piece of asphalt here and a little piece of asphalt here that have actually got from jobs that wasn't used.
Extra, yeah.
Extra pieces. Why throw something to waste? Might as well use it. My daughter can attest to this. I'm a cheapskate. So ultra conservative. So looking at that piece, I don't think we're fully connected to the driveway up above because I've just been patching it along. So technically, we're not even attached to the driveway up above. It's just been going on these pieces so that we're not throwing rocks or making loose pieces.
And do you know that you're 10 feet off of the property line?
I think we're close to 8.5 to 9 feet. I'm just estimating that right now at this time. I want to make sure that I'm within respect.
Well, certainly if you go to if you go to Crystal or something and do a driveway, every city has a setback ordinance.
Oh, tell me about it.
And you know about those, right?
Oh, we actually are putting a new website together for that whole piece.
Which would mean if you think it's 8.5, that means you didn't check it here.
That is correct, and it's not always, in fact, I was looking at it, this was actually looking at not actually a driveway, it's actually just basically reducing rock into drainage. If I left that gravel, then that would actually be a washout on that whole thing as well. So I wasn't looking, and we haven't used a paver on it. I own a paver.
Right. I don't think you used a paver on any of the asphalt, from what I can see in the picture.
No, it hasn't been.
Yeah.
It's just been little patches here and there so that I don't happen to have my rear end slipping and blowing the rear end out of the truck. And so, and basically not reduce dust. Now we have that down, I don't have dust going on anyplace else and not have to put any type of chemicals down or anything because I don't like that as well. So that's a good question.
Okay.
So you also talked about, someone asked about oil or actually fuel oil or diesel.
Diesel tanks.
We have no diesel tanks. The laws that require the ability to have a diesel tank and the risk with that is way too high.
Yeah.
You guys gotta remember, Sipes, be nice to them. They've been nice to the truckers. We all go there to get our fuel at Sipes in Dayton.
Well, if you did have it there, then we'd be bringing in Gary, the fire chief, to take a look
Well,
at it.
I like Gary. I like to say is bring more friends on. One more thing for the council. You can tell I'm ADD. I pick up on a lot of different things. I thank you for sending the fire engine to Ukraine. My neighbor Michael is from Ukraine. 2 of my staff are actually from Ukraine. So it was a really good thing to see, and I'm going to make sure everybody knows. I actually am connected with the Ukraine community quite a bit. So it's going to be a good thing to be able to let them know, you guys did a great thing. So with that being said, I'm going to turn over to my daughter.
I think one of you guys said to reduce that backing up noise, the road around the barn does go all the way around. So when we don't have to back up to get out of there. So you just kind of go around that barn to get out.
Oh, you can make a full loop?
The full loop around that barn. So that does reduce that backing up noise. So there was some videos that were brought forward during that planning commission that I just wanted to address. They were said to be taken between that September and October time, and I want to say that there was a lot of personal things happening that we did. We had new windows installed that we had vehicles in there for. We had actually a new sidewalk in place, so there were cement trucks coming in for that, for a sidewalk being put in. We had an apron. The barn had new concrete. One of our front yard trees fell almost on our house, but it ended up going the other way during one of the storms that happened. So we were chopping up that, used the skid, help load that away. We made some garden beds, moving wood chips. So some of that noise that may have been heard could have been from just home improvement projects around the home. So this caused more activity than normal, but weren't related to business activity at all. I have 2 daughters, under 2 at home, and the noise personally has never woken them up from a nap, never bothered them the slightest. I work from home. I have meetings on a daily basis where I'm on webcam, and no one has ever heard the noise when I'm in those meetings as well. Most of the time, I don't even know if they're at a job or on site when they're working, and the noise hasn't bothered me yet.
I'd like to mention that before I even moved in, there was a business before me. And they actually had trucks. It was Metro Excavating. And Daryl actually knew that they were there and was neighbors with them and never had a problem with them being there. It looked like after I bought the property, it became more personal. In fact, when Metro Excavating was there, Daryl used the barn for his horses and used the field behind to care for horses that he were boarding. Daryl's actually has his business on his side of the property and running a veterinarian business.
What was this business before you?
So I actually got their mail, so that's how I kind of found out who they were, because their mail's actually still getting sent to our house. So it's Metro Excavating. We looked them up on Facebook, and we actually have pictures of their large trucks in our property wall when they
Does anybody want to see this?
They're just, yeah.
They're
the large trucks that we have as well.
It's same trucks.
That there was no
Dump
issue
truck.
at that point.
What?
Dump truck.
Yeah. And also we have a person here that was the owner of this property that we bought it from, that actually knew that this business was here. And Michael can speak later.
Can I ask a question?
Always.
Who actually lives at the Dayton property?
Yeah,
Well-
so me, my husband, and then my father.
So you don't live at the Maple Grove property that you have homesteaded?
My wife does.
Okay. Or the non-homesteaded one that's kind of cut out in the middle that you also own?
I also own houses in Brooklyn Center and also Maple Grove.
Just asking.
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
making sure.
I only live at one house.
Okay, so you do live at the Dayton property? The three
Correct.
of you do? Okay.
And my daughter said bring a piece of mail.
That's a good idea.
You guys want to see this one too?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. We're trying, I'll tell you this, I'm feeling much better. The last meeting, Sarah can admit, I was a rambler. I was so stressed. And so I tried to become more bullet point and care about. I did call each of you on Saturday. Hopefully, I apologize I'm bothering you on a Saturday, but I didn't know when else to call. And emailed so that I'm here always. In fact, I know that Hayden and John know personally that if they have a question, just call me. And hopefully they can speak to that. I've been a good person to work with.
So it's never our intent to, make the noise or, cause a nuisance. And we'd like to, discuss with you guys on like what we can do to limit that and for our surrounding neighbors as well. So we just ask that we can work together, after the planning commission and with staff to limit any concerns that you guys may have.
Yeah, I think the fence, the shakers that I put in the truck reduces any banging of the noise. Adding on that I can drive around the building so that I can actually not have any backing up needed. We don't load in the morning any materials because I go buy them off-site.
Yeah, you're buying all the asphalt off-site for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, once the asphalt gets cold, it's garbage.
Right.
But if I have, let's say a quarter of a ton, I just dump it on site, which would be in the evening, and then later in the week or 2 weeks later, I would then load that up. See, I think Sarah brought up a thing is that asphalt and concrete would be terrible to dump on your property, and I agree with her, but they're recyclables. We actually get credit for asphalt and concrete we bring in because they crush it up and they sell it back to us. So she was very wise in saying that, but I think somebody brought up what we dumped on the property. We've moved some sand around. Oh, it's beautiful sand on their property. So it's terrible that it ever go to waste. But we did bring in base so that the trucks can drive on it. So that is what we have brought in. And so, I also have tried to meet with my neighbor. As you can tell, I'm a very social kind of guy that talks with everybody. And so I have met with Darrell a few times. The things that he asked about when I first met with him, what is my plan with the barn? And I did tell him it was a shop to work on my machinery because I own an asphalt and concrete business. I did let him know that he asked me what I'm going to do with the field. I said I'm going to put cows in it. And let him know that, that's the goal. It hasn't happened yet, but it's the goal to do as soon as I get the fences mended and get everything going. I tried to communicate with my neighbors and everybody I know that to open relationship. The only thing I ever felt like I ever get back from Darrell, in fact, at the planning commission when I left this group, I asked him, can we meet? Can we talk together? How can we come to agreement? And the only piece I heard was, well, when I run you out, I'll give you what I paid for it. Or what I paid for it. I think this is kind of personal. I do want to respect him. That's why I went and bought $5,000 worth of shakers for that machine, for both trucks, so it doesn't bother him. And so it's a respect thing, respecting your neighbors. Do you guys have any questions for me?
I have a couple.
Good.
We've had a couple of these come to us in my time here, and you're always starting out in a bit of a hole when you're asking for permission for something you're already doing. And so that doesn't start us out in a good place, or it doesn't start me out in a very good place. I recognize that, in Dayton, we've probably got 20 more of these that we just haven't heard about yet, and so there's, it is what it is, but that certainly coming forward sooner around this would have been helpful to this whole conversation. I think there was, really good discussion at the Planning Commission meetings around this. I had questions in my mind around what purpose a 6-foot fence would do, but you've addressed that, so I appreciate that because of the pictures we saw that were originally taken by, I believe, Hayden on the original site visit. There's a fair amount of cleanup that needs to happen, and I'm hoping that has, or if not, that it's your intent to clean a lot of what looks like junk to me out of there.
Some of that is junk. I have scrapped. That has nothing to do with the business. That's just me personally. If somebody gives me a whole bunch of steel, I throw it in the pile until steel prices go up, and then I get rid of it. So that has nothing to do with the business. That's just something I do personally. Looking at the city, I did come to the city before I even bought this property for two concerns. I wanted to know the zoning, and the property was zoned for multifamily. I was really excited. And then I asked about needing to get a permit, and I was told, well, don't worry until somebody complains. So I take responsibility for not coming sooner. I have met with Darrell and didn't get any complaints until this fall. And so I apologize I haven't been sooner here, but hopefully, working with John and Aiden, I've been meeting all the pieces. You asked about me cleaning up the property. The day that we were actually doing, that John and Hayden were out there, we were pouring concrete in the building. I did call and ask about a permit, but no permit was needed. So yes, we are going to be cleaning up when it gets closer to spring here because winter has fallen on us in the meantime.
Sure, and the asphalt piece that gets a little fuzzier for me now because of your description, how you're just kind of dumping leftover there, but certainly you understand that if it is a driveway, then it needs a permit and it needs to comply with the setbacks and
we'll work with
and
that.
so on. I think that through the process with the Planning Commission, there's some pretty significant conditions to this permit, and so I would like to know from you, are you intending, are you even able to meet some of these? The hours of operation, the number of vehicles, the business hours piece of it, and complying with the storage piece of it, because nobody's coming out there every other Thursday to check up on you, right? We have to have some level of trust that this is going to occur. And my comment around what appears to be junk to me in the yard, that's part of being a good neighbor also. And clearly there's a strained relationship here that I don't know whether you can fix or not, but certainly every effort that you can make to improve the appearance of your operation, I think would go some distance toward mending things with your neighbor.
Correct. Putting the fence up is going to be the biggest piece. And we're not going to put a short fence up, we're going over 200 feet. And that will cover a lot of pieces that are looking at being in question. Looking at making sure that we're reducing noise, anything we can do that way. We're looking at. And then with the restrictions you said that are all there, after working that many hours, I'm tired and want to just rest also. So, there's plenty of, we can work with all the, we've been given a lot of, how do you say?
Guidelines.
Thank you. Guidelines, and we're going to be able to meet with all them.
You're able to meet all of those?
Yes. The only one thing I wanted to ask that Hayden put out is that we were given only a 3-year. If the council would consider it, I'd like to go up to the 5-year, but I understand I'm getting penalized 2 years already, and I'll accept that.
Yeah, I don't know if I would support the 5 years because there's a little bit of a, prove it to us with this. And I know it might have been the first Planning Commission meeting where you talked about that you had additional vehicles in your request for potential growth, and that's not included in these conditions. And I think that, long-term, I would assume that your intent is to continue to be successful in your business and to grow, that this might ultimately not be a viable location for you. The permit is for 3 years, and you'll be back here again to state your case again if this is approved tonight. So I think that's a part of the 3-year piece, is that it gives a little bit of a window to kind of prove that that this is compatible with the neighborhood and that you're able to comply with these conditions.
And I will work with that, gladly.
I think that's what I had for comments.
I have general comments, but no questions for the applicants.
Anybody else have questions for
I
the
might come
applicant?
back in. You can go. You can go.
No, I have no questions for the applicants.
Oh,
I already
okay.
asked all my questions at the planning
Okay.
commission meeting, so
Okay.
I only have comments.
Okay. Go ahead.
No, I'm waiting until they leave, and then we have our discussion.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, I don't know how. Part of me is I certainly wouldn't extend it either. I personally would go down to like a year and see where we're going with this, because I have no faith, being that we put a driveway in, knowing that there probably is a setback, but we didn't bother checking on it. We started this whole business, but we didn't bother checking on it. I don't know if you're going to do anything that you're telling me that you're going to do in a reasonable amount of time. You just made the comment that if you work all day, you're tired and you want to go home, but.
No, I don't want to go home, I want to just relax, I'm home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of fence are we, is there parameters on the fence? Is it a fence company that's gonna put it up, or is he gonna go and buy a bunch of boards and put it up? I mean, I'd like to see that.
It has to follow the permit.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
he would be required to apply for a fence permit, and it would have to meet the guidelines of materials. There is no requirement in the zoning ordinance itself that a fence company pull the permit and install
Okay.
the fence.
And do we have the fence up by May 15th or something, or?
We can certainly establish a timeline to have that up.
I mean, the fence certainly will help some. It's definitely not gonna control the beeping. I mean, if you tell me that you're not gonna back a truck up,
Correct.
Really?
No, I'm agreeing with you as I will, but I tried to reduce it by making it wider on the other
Right.
side so that I'm driving through. Most of my trucks and trailers stay hooked up so that there's not a need to disconnect and reconnect,
yeah,
but it does happen, and I won't lie.
right. Yeah,
FedEx will
that's
provide
right.
all the beeping.
Huh?
FedEx is gonna provide all the beeping needed.
And sometimes there is beeping. We do get a lot of Amazon and FedEx, and so there's a lot of beeping from them coming through the driveway.
The other thing is there something on the tailgate of a dump truck that, when that gate comes down and slams on there? Is that what this cushion or the vibrator
No,
thing does?
the vibrator goes, it's welded up in the top of the box so that it vibrates the material, so the material comes down. The reason that people bang is to bang and vibrate the piece so that the material comes down. So when I lower the tailgate, it doesn't make much sound at all. In fact, you could be standing feet away and you wouldn't hear it because it's just a gradual hydraulic coming down. It's that we do it on purpose to vibrate the material down. So I would reduce that, not doing it on purpose, having the vibrator interact so that it actually knocks the material down.
Okay.
Somehow those side loaders, so when I had that development going on next to me, all summer long, every 3 minutes, bang,
Yeah.
every 3 minutes. But
And I'm not there.
This gets rid of that.
Yeah, I'm only there in the evening if that ever happens. We're gone in the morning and go pick up material and go to work. Our goal is not to bring any home.
No, I understand that. I mean, that would certainly be the goal. But, I mean, some of that's going to happen. There's just no way around it.
And we are a concrete and asphalt company, so I'm not asphalting every day. 2 or 3 days a week, we're ripping things out. 2 days, we're paving,
That's
and then we're doing
worse yet,
concrete.
because all that concrete's coming back to you.
No, I don't want the concrete coming back.
No?
It's hard then.
Okay.
We actually have that dumped and it's crushed and brought back and we're sold it as Class 5 gravel. So we don't want the concrete on our site. It goes back with a concrete truck, or if we remove it from a site, no different than we remove asphalt, that goes over to get crushed back up and sold back to us.
So you're not bringing the asphalt, the concrete back to
No.
to dump here?
No. That becomes a pain, and that stuff is hard to get rid of. If you sit in your place and you got to dig it out, you got to remember, we're living there. This is our home. We don't want to have it destroyed.
Okay.
Is the dark blue line the fence?
Yes.
The dark blue line is the 6-foot fence.
It's like 250 feet in what I looked at. So I think we said 200 feet of fence. Are we
Yeah,
going to
that's
work
not-
on the blue line or 200 feet?
It's not identified. Essentially, what the recommendation would be the extent of the interim use permit area along the north property line would have to be fenced.
Got it.
So if that's 250 feet, that's what that is.
Okay.
And we could certainly dimension out the site plan that was provided by the applicant.
Anybody else have questions for the applicant?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Should we open it up to,
Do you, Mayor?
anybody want to come forward on this issue? Sure, come on up. Name and address?
15490 Brockton Lane North. I'm the scoundrel that owns the property just north of his outfit here.
You'll have to give the name here, Daryl.
Pardon me?
You'll have to give your name.
Daryl Zayer. Do you have all the photos on your slides that were included with the packet that was sent out?
I can surely bring them up.
Nope, don't hit that button.
Firstly, the driveway is shown very clear in one of these photos. Photos taken parallel to the property line, and it's pretty plain to see that this blacktop is right up close to the property line and on top of the spruce tree roots.
Can we kind of establish that the driveway has some questions, and it's kind of a side issue?
Yes, absolutely.
Seems like it's...
Right there.
Was this the one you were referring to?
Well, there's another one. Right there. That fence is basically the property line. See the trees? Those trees are taking a huge beating because this, I mean, it looks like blacktop to me. It doesn't look like some patch job. It looks like somebody purposefully paved the driveway there and snubbed it up as close, probably would have put it closer to the property line if it wasn't for all the junk there. That's also laying across my property line in places as well. But these trees are taking a huge beating because we're choking. Well, first of all, there was several feet of fill hauled in, and then the pavement or blacktop was put over that. And
So
you
the-
can see that he said the trees are on a knoll. They're not. I mean, this is higher now than the trees are. So,
That fence is the property line?
Yeah, but understood between both property owners that existing, I don't know if it's PVC run along that property line, but that is identified as the actual property line.
Okay.
That white fence that we're talking about?
Correct.
Yep.
there's a marker pole right here,
Oh, yeah.
which I
Okay.
assume surveyors put that in there, which IDs the property line.
Okay.
And we are nowhere as close to the setback of that property line.
What is the elevation change? Because I know that it was stated that the fence would be much, much higher due to the properties coming down, but to me, it doesn't really look like there's much of an elevation change between that asphalt and that marker.
There's not. It's actually a little bit higher.
It's a 6-foot fence?
Be a 6-foot fence, yes.
I guess I think 14 feet was what the applicant had said would be the elevation difference between the fence.
No, I think that's...
if
I
you're
think
looking-
that's down here,
That's if
but...
you're standing at the
Down
building.
here.
Okay, from the bottom of the hill to that spot.
Yeah, and that's where the materials can be stored, is down there.
So, just for reference, I took this actually prior to being on site with the applicant when Daryl asked me to come out and see what was going on. And this was right at the property line without encroaching onto the applicant's property, roughly where that fence would go. So this is just
Okay.
for us to be taking a picture at the 5'10" and a half that I am, would be for just for context.
And it looks worse than that now. So, I don't have to look at the mess, but I have to hear the noise. And my animals have to hear the noise. And my house shakes. The walls shake, the pictures on the wall, and I know this for a fact because I had open heart surgery last year early. So I spent a lot of time in my basement. And this truck and trailers would come down and go back up, and that house would literally shake. Now, to me, that's a clear violation in your rules. But for some reason, the planning commission and you guys, the city, don't think it's a big deal. I wasn't asked for any of this. I was just told it's not a big deal. I think that's very unfair. You know, why was it so slanted? I don't get that. Why wasn't my rights entertained? I don't get that either. But the noise is significant. And there's no way any fence is going to take care of that noise. That tree line would have had a huge effect on the noise, but the tree line is going down now. I mean, I don't know if any of that's going to survive. to be honest with you. And it's far worse now. It takes a while for the damage to really add up. Cumulative, these trees die from the bottom up. And right now, it's a picture window from my yard to look back at this mess here. I raise quarter horses. We train and compete with quarter horses, PRCA rodeos. These things are affected by this too. They're bothered by noises. They're spooked by the sounds of the truck. And it's not just the tailgate. It's not the tailgate. It's the air brakes. It's the backup. Beep, 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 beep. It's the grunting of the motor. It's all of that. You can say, well, okay, I won't bang the tailgate. Well, you still have four things going on. Aggregate coming out of the box spooks the horses up madly. I mean, to them, it's a rattlesnake. It's not just stuff coming out of a trailer or truck. And it's right on top of me. You know, I can't get away from it. It's almost like it's an amphitheater, and I'm sitting there listening to this all. I mean, I've got, videos and stuff. I'm 350, 400 feet away from where he's dumping stuff, and it sounds like it's sitting right there on the chairs that you guys are sitting on. So I can't deal with the horse business, with the training and that sort of thing. I mean, I have people that come and help with the horses and that sort of thing. They come in with a load to dump, and he explained at the planning commission that he's really cheap and he likes to keep everything and bring it back and dump it, load it up, and then made it sound like far more involved than what he said tonight. Well, we'll do it every now and then. Well, it's not every now and then. It was all the time. And, so it's not compatible with horses. If you know anything about horses, it doesn't work. So I'm asked to compromise here after he stuck this damn thing right on my property line. There's 11 acres out there. To me, a thoughtful individual, and yeah, there's some hard feelings here. There's some hard feelings because the first day I went over there and talked to the guy, I said, well, just introduce myself. This is in 2023. And he said, just so you know, I'm going to remodel the horse barn. I said, well, what are you going to do? Well, I like fixing things, so I'm going to make it a shop. I assume it was for fixing cars, because you can't get a truck in it or anything like that. Mentioned zero about putting in this kind of business. Nothing. I couldn't see what was going on there because we have a heavy tree line there. I'm busy in the spring and summer. I make farm calls. I'm on the road from 6 in the morning till 10 at night. And about September, I see this tree line falling apart. And I walk over there and I'm mortified looking at this stuff, saying, I keep my place like a park. And I go over there and I look at this, and I thought, holy cow, how did I miss this? Now, after I had my surgery, I'm sitting in the basement listening to the house shake and that sort of thing. I thought, well, he said he's going to fix the barn. He's hauling in stuff for the barn, that sort of thing. But no, he's hauling in fill. There's a lot of fill has been hauled in around that barn. I don't know if it's clean fill, if it's dirty fill, or what. I do know that it runs off there. It runs into the pond down below the hill that the Vernons just paid $2.5 million for that property around that pond. And I don't know the quality of this stuff. I don't know what's going to be growing down in that pond after all this. All this could have been prevented if this would have gone through proper protocol. This whole idea, well, I'm sorry, I want to continue doing it. I mean, why wouldn't you do it that way if you get by with it? So, he says I'm being unfair. I don't think I'm being unfair. I think a lot of guys would have went over there and hauled off on him. So.
Okay. Questions?
So I've compromised the usefulness of my property. I feel like, I mean, I don't think you need to be a realtor to say that this has affected my, in a negative way, the only way it could positively affect my property would be if some guy with the same sort of business wants to come and buy something like this. And with my luck, by that time, you'll make it illegal, and you won't be able to use it for that anyhow. But so the noise is a huge factor. There's no way you can get by without the air brakes. There's no way you can get by without the backup noise. There's no way you can get by without the motor grunting and that sort of thing like those big diesels do. There's no way you can muffle the aggregate coming in and being loaded up. Yeah, you can shake the tailgate less and whatever. Okay, so we got 1 out of 5. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else want to come forward?
My name's Travis Isaacson. I'm a certified arborist for Family Tree Service, and I got called out to look at 15430.
You want to sit down and speak into the mic?
This is my first time ever doing this.
That's okay.
Thank you all for your
It's
service.
okay.
I appreciate all of you for your hard work. But as I was saying, I got called out to review the tree health on this property, and the trees all look healthy on the 15430. I got asked to determine if the driveway was, the driveways on the lot were affecting the tree health. They're all wooded lots there. The driveways and the lots, I imagine, were very thick before the houses were there, and a lot of trees probably were taken away to put these in. So the driveways do sort of carve through trees to get to the homes, but the driveways are all plenty far away from the trees on the lot. We did show this driveway a few times, and whether it's 8 or 10 feet, I don't know. I didn't measure that. But this shot here shows the woods, and it's a patch of woods that encircles a adjacent property here. And the gentleman mentioned that the spruce trees, the dead branches, die from the bottom up, and that's true, and that's completely natural and normal. And tree branches die where there's sun deprivation, and in the woods you're going to see dead branches throughout. The outer shell of the woods here that we see is the greenest portion aside from the top of the trees. So if the roots had been severed to a point where we cut off half of the tree, the deadwood would be on this side of the trees where the driveway was, and it would probably go all the way up to the top of the tree. There'd be excessive browning. And remember that trees are replanted and roots do get severed. Even trees as large as this and larger are transplanted with humongous equipment that cuts right into the earth and severs the roots. So I would say that any damage, if there is any damage, if you call it, is just natural deadwood dieback from being in the woods. And I have a couple of pictures that are sort of the same pictures that you see, and they just show a lot of heavy, smaller trees that are sort of encroaching on these spruce trees that we're talking about. So the trees are crowded with small saplings of buckthorn, ash, box-elder, all sorts of scruff that you'd find in the woods, and it's not that the property was very well maintained. It's a beautiful property that you have, and both lots were very pretty. But the pruning is probably more around the main yard and not in the woods. So the woods are just left in natural state, and I think it's just a matter of just completely normal woods, honestly. So, does anybody have any questions for me? Because that's really all I could say.
I'm curious. It's primarily spruce trees along that line.
There's one main row of spruce evergreen that's probably intentionally, originally like a windbreak or windbreak or privacy or whatever. It's a beautiful screen. As spruce trees age, not having deadwood is pretty hard. You'd really have to continuously be trimming dead branches.
Yeah, I'm just curious what is normal for that type of tree in terms of root spread, I guess, for lack of a better term. Does it go beyond the drip line? Does it extend?
Roots are always going to go beyond the drip line on almost every tree. Some trees quite a bit farther than others. But again, when you pluck a tree from the ground to move it, you you go pretty close to the trunk and you take out all the roots beyond the drip line. So you cut right at the drip line.
And a lot of them don't survive.
Well, yeah, they're transplanted professionally like that for many, hundreds of years. So the trees do survive when they're transplanted in such a way, all sizes. So I feel like the buckthorn, the box elder, the ash, all these small trees that have been allowed to grow, as almost as tall. This picture is showing a slight downward angle because there is a little bit of a hill at this angle, but there's a lot of trees that are crowding the spruce trees. So I feel like that's also causing sun deprivation. This is a winter shot. These are deciduous trees here. If this was a summer shot, that'd be all green leaves on these branches that we see. And so that screen is blocking out the sun to the evergreens. Just a normal overgrown wood line, I guess you could say. There was trees all around this property that we're talking about that were, the woods are growing over the line. To the front of the street, there's trees growing at a 45-degree angle right out to the street, and all around the whole lot, there's trees that are growing out of the woods over. So for safety, you'd have to tuck that in also.
Yeah, I don't have personally any issues with, the trees are dying, and sun deprivation certainly can be part of it. Evergreens they need sun to grow, without a doubt. Whether or not the driveway had anything to do with it, to me, isn't the biggest deal. And whether that driveway being there for 16 months would make that tree die that fast, I don't think so, but maybe. My issue is we didn't check on anything before, we just did whatever we wanted. And that, to me, that's a big deal. I don't have any idea if all of that junk along the fence there, I couldn't tell you whether it was there 2 years ago or 10 years ago. I don't know. To me, I wouldn't personally want to live next to it either, but one man's junk is another man's treasure.
Any other questions for the
Thank you.
arborist?
Thank you, Al.
Anybody else want to come up? Come on up.
Chair, right?
Yep. Name and address?
Michael Sestoni, 15340 Brockton Lane. I'm on the south side of.
Okay.
So, when we were talking, this whole thing is.
I'm going to move the mic a little closer to you.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm sort of hoarse. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I hear that. That's good. That's fine.
This thing started maybe a couple years ago or so. I used to own that property, and I had friends of mine living there who had dump trucks. And they lived there for 2.5 years until COVID came, and then they kind of took advantage of me and took off. So that's when I decided to sell the property. But my point being is that the noise that we hear along that area, it isn't just from the trucks that are there. It's the semis that are going down Brockton Lane.
Yeah.
And that goes on every single day. I don't care for the noise either, but it is what it is. You can't change that. And when this whole ordeal started, and I've been friends with Daryl since 1988. And we get along well. My kids used to go over there and look at the horses and stuff. But now, when this whole ordeal started about John moving in there with his trucks, I have been dealing with trucks because the Balfanese, who lived there for 2.5, maybe possibly 3 years, had dump trucks all the time. Didn't bother anybody.
And what were they, what was it? It was a business, I assume.
It was a
run out of
business,
there.
right. He was an excavator also.
Oh, okay.
And so the noise element, I have a hard time with. I'm right next door. I hear it every day. Not just from the neighbors, but from the Brockton Lane. So that part, I'm not quite sure why Daryl is reacting the way he is. I understand it's his views, his house, his everything else. But when this ordeal started, I wanted to sit down with Daryl and John and sit down and talk. Because without talking, nothing gets resolved, and look where it's at now. We're here, Dayton City Hall. Cool, right? It's not the way it's supposed to be. They're neighbors. That's the part that bothers me about this whole ordeal. That nobody will sit down and talk. They'll come into court here or to the council.
We can't fix that, so, yeah.
You know.
Okay.
So as far as, I understand if John's trying to remodel the area, make it better, we all go through that. I built the barn years ago. Well, that was noisy. It's a lot of work. Nobody bitched about that, excuse me, nobody complained about that. But it is what it is. If you want to improve things, you just have to go along with it. And you talk, and you understand, and try to resolve issues without turning this into I'm not going to say that word, the show.
Excremental is the term I use.
Yeah. So in my aspect, I think this has gone way beyond where it should have been. It's just, nobody talks. Joe went over there, good. Took pictures, he took pictures. John doing his thing over there, he's trying to make things right. So my whole issue is that this is way beyond what it should be, being neighbors. So.
Okay, all right, well, thank you.
That's really all I have to say. This is, it's kind of a waste of everybody's time, to be honest with you.
Anybody else? Thank you. Anybody else? Nobody else? Okay. Well.
So, this is my second time talking about this, because I was still on Planning Commission when I came through Planning Commission. And I've been thinking a lot about the whole purpose of the home occupation extended or interim use. And when you look at the purpose, it says the purpose of this subsection is to maintain the character and integrity of residential areas, to prevent competition with commercial districts, to encourage telecommuting, and to provide a means through the establishment of specific standards and procedures by which home occupations can be conducted in residential neighborhoods without jeopardizing the health, safety, and general welfare of the surrounding neighborhood. So that really made me that compete with commercial districts, because the reality is we have different zoning for a reason. There's a reason why we have industrial and commercial and mixed use and residential. Ag is always a little tricky because historically a farm was both, right? A farm is your house and it's your business, kind of all wrapped up into one. But the reality is commercial districts and industrial districts are taxed higher, not by us, but by the city and the county, because they put more strain and more burden on our infrastructure, on our roads, on things like that. And so the idea is if you run a business, you should be in the district that is zoned to run a business. And so why do we have this home occupation ordinance? And in my mind, it's for two reasons. One, when you have a home business that is truly secondary, my friend has a bakery business and it's starting to expand a little bit and she's not quite ready for a commercial kitchen, but she's like getting there. And so that would be something like that, right? Her home is still her home, but she's starting the business and this is kind of her launch pad. Or basically, to launch a business. But this is clearly not a new business. He's already gone through this entire thing in Maple Grove. And I'm sure Maple Grove had the same idea. We'll give you a start, you can get a chance, and when your business grows and you get more trucks and more employees, you're going to move into the industrial zone where you belong and you'll pay the appropriate taxes. And instead, when the business grew, they kept the Maple Grove and they plunked it over in us. And I have no reason to believe that when your business grows again, you're not just going to do the same thing in another community. I feel like this is an industrial use, and that's where it should be. Also, according to our rules, they have to meet all the subdivision 3 and 4.2 below. In subdivision 3, there are some main things. The home occupation shall be clearly incidental and secondary to the residential use of the premise. I don't believe that's the case. The question of residency has come up and is still a little questioning for me. 4, no home occupation shall involve the use of equipment other than that customarily found in a residential dwelling. clearly we're not meeting that requirement. 6, all home occupations shall comply with the provisions of the city nuisance ordinance and city noise ordinance. Big questions there. I don't think it is. 9, no home occupation shall generate traffic to and from trips that is not characteristic of the neighborhood. Don't think that's being followed. 10, no home occupation shall produce light, glare, noise, odor, or vibration that will in any way have an objectable effect upon adjacent or nearby properties. Clearly not meeting that. And then in 4.2b, no outdoor storage, let's see here. Any outdoor storage has to be significantly screened from view from the street and adjacent properties. And then C, the setback of 100 feet from any dwelling, not meeting that. And F, no more than one vehicle, which shall be under a gross vehicle weight of 12,000 pounds, can be parked overnight outside or near the home. And one vehicle which exceeds 12,000 pounds may be in a, stored within a building. And we're not wanting to do that. So for me, we're just breaking all of the rules, and we're completely defeating the purpose of, we have this zoning for a reason. This is an industrial use, it should be in an industrial zone. So my vote's no.
Earlier today, I had asked you to check with Maple Grove. What did we find out?
Look for her, Hayden.
So initially, when we did our investigation on this site, I did reach out because that was the address that was identified on their website as their primary business location. At that time, Maple Grove had said that they are aware of the situation going on at that property, have no open complaints or anything like that. So no action or anything like that has been taken for what is currently on those properties. And then I did double check with them as we were going through this process, and nothing has changed of the fact for that.
So what is that property used for then? Because it's part of the business. The
Right.
Maple Grove one.
From my understanding, working with the code enforcement officer in Maple Grove, is that it is a residential property that is also utilized for storage of equipment similar to this.
So both materials and trucks, or we don't know?
That was not clarified by the code enforcement officer. It was just more so understood that it was utilized for storage of business-related things.
Did that address your question, Councilmember Solonic?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, that, we voted up today. That was
Yeah.
what we heard
Yeah.
today.
You know, my initial reaction to this was not positive. It feels like an industrial use. Looks like an industrial use and so on. I guess I have come around a bit on it because number one, it's a 3-year permit. I don't see this as a long-term use for this property, and what's going to be different in 3 years? Probably not a lot. There's no development that's going to happen in that area for some time. Clearly not compatible with any kind of a residential neighborhood. I understand the concerns from the neighbor to the north, that this is interfering with his business as well as his enjoyment of his property. I think the mess concerns me, but I can't go a half a mile around this town without seeing a mess in somebody's yard, and that's something we're going to have to reconcile with here. We had somebody here up during open forum talking about the same kind of thing in a residential area, so it is endemic in this city, and that's something that we are going to need to deal with as a council, and how we want to enforce or change our existing rules. But these are some pretty stringent conditions in this ordinance or the permit. Losing the word here. The resolution that we're looking at. When I look at those, if those can be complied with, then I'm not having a big problem with it. I think the applicant could go a long way toward improving his relationship with his neighbor by cleaning up the junk, which is not really part of this application, but I think that's as big a pain point as some of the other things that are involved And so I guess I will say I am not a fan, but I would vote to approve based
concern
on
is-
these conditions.
My concern is, so far, all evidence points to not complying with the rules.
Well, that's where we started, right? The business was already there
Yeah,
before a permit was
And has
applied for.
continued to do things that don't follow the rules, and for someone who should know the rules, like setbacks for driveways. So I would question, I don't personally see any good faith that these rules will be followed.
I understand.
And how do you enforce them, I think is kind of where I'm stuck too, is like, you can lay out all of the guidelines that you want and be as, stringent as you want to be on them, but if we can't enforce them, or we're not going to enforce them, then
We enforce them, the IUP would get pulled if he was in violation.
if you go out there and you check it, but like you said, you're not going out every Thursday to make sure that we don't have an extra dump truck, or we didn't come 13 times today.
Right, well, this, with all of our stuff, it's complaint-based.
Which then goes to keeping, how do you build a good relationship with
With
your
your
neighbor?
neighbors,
when
if they're
it's entirely
constantly
based on
complaining.
complaints.
I'm just not convinced that the noise isn't going to be an issue. I mean,
Do we as a city know the previous excavation company? Were they registered at all either?
I do not believe that there
Well,
was
you
an
weren't here
inter...
then, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Other
No.
people breaking rules is not a justification,
No, I'm
if
not
I get
saying
pulled
that.
over, I don't say, well, the person in front of me was speeding and you let him go, so therefore you should let me go.
Yeah, where I was going with that though is we didn't have a complaint back then and now all of a sudden we do. So there's a little more to the story here than what we're getting.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, there's never been an IUP pulled on this property, to answer the question.
I get what Sarah, what you're saying. I mean, every rule in the book is broken.
By somebody.
And rather than checking up on him, but if you give him a 24-hour notice, I can fix anything in 24 hours before you come out. The only other thing that I can see is to me, if it's allowed, the fence has got to be built by June 1st of this year. All the debris from that fence has got to be removed before the fence is built. The driveway's got to be within tolerance, within setback. We got a lot of work to do here, and I personally I wouldn't let it go 3 years before that work is done. To me, it's got to be done sometime this summer.
Well, I think in
Fence in the
reference,
driveway?
in reference to the 3 years, that's the length of the permit.
I
And once-
understand that.
Yeah, so he would still have to,
Other provisions can be added in there, I get
correct,
that, yeah.
absolutely, yeah. Conditions of approval can be added.
So you're just saying by June, you'd want the fence done?
Fence
and
has got to be done, the
driveway
property's got to be, all that junk's got to be cleaned out.
So do you want to add that as a provision, Councilmember Solomon?
Well, I'm not there yet, but, I mean, to me, some of them things got to happen. And we're going to have somebody go out, whether it's Hunter or somebody's going to go out and check on it.
Yeah, I want to make sure it's known to the council that in order for us to require it to be done, it has to be written as a provision. of-
Right. No,
And we can say it's strongly recommended, but we can't require it unless it's a condition of
it's
approval.
going to be, if I go along with it, it's going to be a requirement.
Just want to make sure that's clear of what that means.
let me ask another question. If, we're going back to the complaint thing, sorry,
Sure.
I'm really stuck there, I think.
It's how all of our stuff works.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
understood.
We have 40 employees doing.
Okay, so if it's based on, oh, hey, we've gotten a complaint, right? We've gotten a complaint that trucks have been here, 13 times, or this is, what stops your neighbor from day one coming in saying, oh, I heard the trucks 13 times? And then they call the next day, I heard the trucks again. So, like, how do you validate that and say they really did break the provisions, or this is just, doesn't want to hear the noise? I wouldn't want to hear it either, that's not what I'm saying, but like, how do you know that it really is you violated the conditions? Or, I just really don't want this here, so I'm going to call you every week, I'm going to call Zach every week and complain about it. Like, there's no way to validate that, so for me, that's really hard to, like, there's no boundaries on it, and I don't like that. Does that make sense? Like, if it's just on complaints of, hey, they're breaking it, that's like a he said, she said kind of a thing. And again, like if we already have contention between neighbors, you're just asking for more.
Well, noise complaints are like that. I mean, the chief can probably.
Oh, 100, I agree with you, but I guess I'm just saying that, like, if there's 13 trips in and out, or there isn't, you're never gonna know that. And to me, 12 also feels like a lot. I mean, that house is really close. Yeah. They were really close, and it makes sense to me where, yeah, on the one side, you're gonna hear it because your house is, what, you say 75 feet? As opposed to, I'm looking at the lot lines right now, there's a large
I measured
distance.
540 feet.
Yeah,
so.
between, and so,
Well,
I mean.
how far is it from Brockton?
I'd say
Which
400 or
one?
500 feet.
Which one?
Which house?
The neighbor's house.
That's
Because
those.
I lived on Brockton.
Those are the lot
There are
lines right
trucks
there.
up and down there all
This is the
time.
property in question.
178 feet.
And I'm not saying that there isn't. I'm just saying you would hear more being right there as opposed to on the other side. And so you're going to get a noise complaint from the same person over and over again. And at what point do you go, well, is that somebody just complaining because they don't want this next door, or is it really happening? There's no way to validate that. And I guess that's where I'm a little bit stuck, because I like clean edges, and nothing is ever clean edges, but I like the most clean edges as possible. And I guess I don't also have good faith that it isn't going to be 13 or 15, and the track record doesn't look good. We started out from a bad spot. I'm still, again, a little wishy-washy about the properties, and there's the Maple Grove one and the Dayton one, and all of that feels like there's a lot of homes in between. For one at-home extended business, like there's 2 residential properties, why wouldn't you have just moved into an industrial area at that point? If you're willing to buy 2 full properties, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm just getting off on a tangent and I should stop, but everything about this feels sticky, and I don't know how it wouldn't be a nuisance. And I wouldn't want to buy your house 75 feet from this. I'm sorry. You have a beautiful property, but I wouldn't want to buy your house. I wouldn't want to raise children there. Like, that's just way too close to all that noise and all that in and out, and it's not the use for that property. I'm going to stop now.
Mayor, Council, I do want to address one question, and I forgot to address it during Councilmember Van Assen's comment about taxes. So when an IUP is approved with a property with a home extended business, that is submitted to the county, and the county does then a recalculation of taxes, and then they do classify the business, and the house taxes change from being just residential to being a industrial taxes. Not fully, but there is a portion, so that is redone. That was redone with the Lawn Smart business down on 117th Avenue, and that was the first time I had realized that was the process, and so I wanted to make sure that was clear with the council members as well.
Yeah, and whenever the county's here, they are very clear that they
Yes.
will decide
Yes.
how a house is classified.
That is correct. So that it does change the classification slightly, not saying it's right or wrong, just giving all of the information so you have that.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yep.
That's helpful, thank you.
Is there something you want to add to the CUP or the IUP that might help you?
I guess maybe that's why it is even more sticky, because I don't know how you enforce that. Like, I'm open to any suggestion about how you would, like, validate that, and maybe there isn't another way other than noise complaints.
But that is, our IUPs, that's, the conditions are always that way.
Right.
You count on the owner doing what the IUP says.
And I think that maybe that's, again, where I'm stuck, because we didn't start out in a very great spot. And
Particularly considering they already have an IUP in Maple Grove, so they should know how the process works.
they do they? They do not have an IUP,
No.
no. They're just operating.
Oh, good
Yeah.
on Maple Grove.
From my understanding, Maple Grove operates the same as the city of Dayton in terms of complaint-based enforcement, so.
You got it. It's no complaint, no process.
Okay.
That property's pretty out there. I don't know if you looked at it or not. There's nothing really around it. I mean, there is, but it's.
So Scott, where are you at?
The other issue is I can think of 6 of these within 2 miles of my place that are doing the exact same thing.
But that signals an issue with
But-
us, not.
Yeah, that's our fault.
right? Like, am I wrong there? Like, if we know, I mean, that's kind of on us that we didn't. And again, if we're all complaint-based, but
Actually, I think a lot of them, that they don't necessarily know that's.
They're not allowed
don't
to.
know what you don't know.
I mean,
That's really what it was.
that's fair. But I guess I don't know. Sorry, I missed.
Okay, so you're saying you're a no. Or is there something you can put in IUP?
Okay, so I'm with Scott on the timeline of when the fence would need to be built.
Yep.
That is a no-brainer for me if you're going to move forward.
And then resolve the driveway issue, whether it's 10 feet or not, or.
Yeah, you're gonna give them.
Can it be moved?
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, you
absolutely,
can
it can be
shave
tore
out.
up, I mean.
No, but I mean, maybe there's a middle ground, right? And I'm just
We may not
talking
have
out
to tear it all
loud.
up, but you might have to tear up 2 feet.
Right.
Oh, no, I'm saying like, move it to the other side of the house, drive your trucks down the center of your property if you really want to have this
I don't
business
even know
there.
if that's possible, I don't know.
Will the county let you do this?
Well, no, it's already
That would
got a
certainly
driveway.
help, that would certainly help, I mean, you'd have to
Could you
look
just
at the
make it
aerial.
longer? Could just,
I don't know if you can come in from the south side of the house or not, I don't know that.
I don't know, it would move it so it's not 75 feet from someone else's house. That may solve a lot of your issues, a lot of your noise, a lot of,
Well, again, I'm just saying that Brockton's right there, so. I mean,
But look
we lived probably 500 feet up.
The amount of tree coverage between his house and Brockton is insane compared to the amount of tree coverage there.
I'm talking about noise.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying the trees help a lot with noise. More than anything else.
I don't know where it was between us and.
you can't tell me that there's not an increased amount of noise having a dump truck driving that
no, there could be.
close.
Yeah.
But
There's no reason you
If you're gonna rip it up anyway, right? I mean, I'm not saying that they are.
drive.
But if you're gonna pull it all up, is there an opportunity to look at if it would be feasible to move it to the other side or to go around the front of that accessory building instead of, on the property line? I could get on board with that, not that it's,
John's house is up here, right?
Daryl's
Yeah,
house is right here.
Daryl's house, yeah.
Here's the driveway.
I'm not trying to be difficult, I just,
Why can't the driveway just go
it's
there?
sticky, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I agree with you, they are all sticky and I just have a really hard time with this one.
Well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make a motion for approval of the resolution with the added conditions that the fence is done by June 1st. The driveway situation is resolved to meet city code and whatever penalties go along with installing that without a permit, and 45 days to clean up all of the storage that is along the property line, with the understanding that all storage related to this business occurs within the permitted area of your circle that you drew around that for the home extended business.
45 days from when?
From
Today.
Approval, if it's approved.
From today.
Would you,
I'm just gonna put a complicating factor into that. If that's frozen into the ground and it doesn't get warm enough and like, it's Minnesota, it might not, we might be frozen for 45 more days. I don't want us to be, but it could be. So,
Do you think longer?
my vote's no matter what y'all say,
the fence,
but
but,
I'm just saying
yeah.
realistically, like
So-
we have stuff to move and it's frozen in the ground. I'm not moving anything right now.
Sounds like there's bobcats around. I think you
Okay,
can
okay.
pull stuff out. I bet if you hook it to the back of the dump truck, it'll come.
it'll go.
So,
Okay, that's fine.
but I think we need to bring this thing home, and so that's
Would
my
you
motion.
rather, table it until the stuff is cleaned up, or do you just want to?
No, I guess, well, maybe we need to talk about that, but my feeling is that this use is not approved. It's subject to inspection, that the 45 days isn't, we just trust on this that we need to verify that this actually occurred. And if that doesn't happen within that time frame, then the interim use permit is null and void. So all of the conditions need to be met.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's a condition of approval.
Essentially, that 45-day, if that is the window that the city council allows, if approved, staff will go out and inspect the property on that 45th day to ensure.
Yes.
So it'd be condition of approval. Technically, it would be approved unless that condition's not met, then it would be denied or removed.
I want one more caveat, and John, you're gonna need to come up here.
John, yep.
Can I just note one thing on that 45 days is that because it is a condition of approval, if that's not met,
Yeah.
we would follow through with the revocation process. That this would come back to you, you'd have to hold a public hearing.
To
and
pull
then-
the item.
To pull it, yep. So it wouldn't be contingent on that cleanup. Unless I'd have to look and see if you can write that in there where it's contingent, the approval
You
is
could do a
contingent
contingent
on-
approval, I think, upon that if we needed to, but.
If you tabled it, we have to do this all over again?
Well, not necessarily. You could have the request that you're doing. I mean, technically, you could table it for 45, 60 days until the cleanup is done. I mean, it'd be no
but if-
different than approving it, I guess. My question is this, I'm not sure why we did the driveway along the property line there. Because to me, it looks like you had to cut a few trees down to get it in there. Why would you have not have put the property, or the driveway back to the barn on the south side?
There is one there. It's very steep.
Oh, right here?
So to make it a drive around,
I see what-
to reduce any beeping and then easier on the,
Well, no, there's, the drive around is still there, I mean,
no, the drive around was added. But looking at is the north side there, it's more gradual. May I go up and point at it?
well, that's because of all the fill that was brought in, probably.
No, because it was a high point of sand.
Okay.
And so what I did is I actually took the sand and pushed it over and kept pushing it down. So this was a high ridge of sand, and this has been dug out here. So this is basically the high ridge of sand that was there. And that's all I did is to make it so it's more gradual. This is so much short, it's very steep and very unsafe, and then this drops down even more. So this is the highest point, drops down more, and drops down even more, and it keeps going down to the lowest spot out here. So that's the contour of the ground.
Yeah, to me, you could have solved the whole thing by knowing full well that you didn't follow the setback on the north side.
I didn't know, and I apologize. I looked at the ordinance
know.
with the city. No, I
Don't tell me
didn't.
you don't know,
Okay,
because that's your business.
every city keeps changing it, and yes, I'm gonna.
But before you ever put a driveway in any other city, you go to the city and make sure, somebody checks to make sure you can put the
John,
driveway.
can I have you speak in front of the mic, just so they get the other
Thank
technique?
you,
No,
Zach.
no, you're good, thank you.
No, I wanna follow the rules.
Thank you.
So, I did make a mistake,
Okay,
and I will own up to it and fix it.
okay. I'd like to see the driveway on the south side. To me, that solves the trucks being that much closer to him.
How do you get a turnaround though? Or how do you make a loop?
And the drop is more than 20 feet from the top driveway.
You're gonna have to fix this right here. I mean, to me, you can come right in through here. And then you just go around like this. You just come in here, go around, right out, instead of going through here. This is the main issue right here. To me, if you just come in here and go around like this, do most of your loading over here, because then your garage is helping shielded.
Right, that's why we decided to put the aggregate on the other side so that he doesn't hear that.
Okay, that's fine. But it would have been so much, to me, right there.
What about, instead of going around the building, you went around the storage area? Is that too much of a drop?
You know, it's even more greater.
Is it? I guess,
It's like 8 feet there. So, and Scott, to talk to your point, is from the top of that driveway to the bottom of the garage, that's gotta be another at least 8 to 9 feet drop. So the only reason I picked the side is that was the most natural one that was already there.
Okay.
And you are correct, I should know my business better. I thought I looked at what it was, and I was looking at the houses that were already built, not the farm piece.
Okay.
So I will gladly fix that to make it follow the proper way it needs to be.
the driveway.
The driveway.
Yeah, we need to put the driveway to bed. we've already decided that that's a problem, and it's gonna get resolved, right?
I want to work, in fact, right now, I'll reach out to Daryl, I'll go out to dinner and I'll pay the whole thing. I want to get to know my neighbors better. That offer's been given more than one time.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to ask Daryl to come up. He wants to talk to him.
Can I answer one question that you had?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the trips back and forth and how many trucks. The trucks would only like leave in the morning, come back at night. The 12 trips would mostly be like the staff or like his staff coming in and grabbing the truck and leaving.
So it's not the dump truck's 12 trips?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's
We're all
12 trips,
working.
including
Right.
the staff coming in and grabbing it. So it's their personal vehicle coming in is one, right? Does that count
It
as
does.
a personal
It
vehicle?
does.
Okay, I
Yep,
just wanted
it
to check
counts.
that too. Their personal vehicle coming in on site, the truck leaves, gone for the whole day, may come back to dump something. If they do, leave,
And
come back to
again.
put
So
it
that's
away.
So that's 4 just for that
That's
one dump
5,
truck?
that's 6
That
per,
one dump truck.
per person.
And that's why they
Right.
said 12, right?
You're going to
Which
burn up the
doesn't-
12 in a hurry. if you
But
do
You've
that.
got 2
noise-
employees, right?
Yeah.
2 part-time. Hang on.
But when we're doing concrete, we're not coming in and out at all because that comes out of my other trucks.
But to adjust that noise part, the noise from the trucks would only be when it's not them on a personal vehicle.
So it,
And it's not every day.
Yeah, I don't
Right.
think, personally, I don't think the issue involves the personal.
no,
vehicles.
that's
It's the
not
dump
the
truck.
issue.
Yeah.
Oh, then it's even lower.
Well, no,
Yeah.
But
it-
the 3/4
unfortunately, it
counts
still
as
counts
personal
on your trips.
Right, we still
Correct.
count them,
Understandably.
to be respectful.
Go ahead.
Mayor, council, I'm gonna be honest with you, 12 trips is gonna be very tight. If,
Yeah, it's
I'm
gonna
gonna
be-
use, you just seen as an example, if you have to run and get milk during the day, that's gonna count as 2 trips now?
That's
But that's my personal
me.
coming
Well,
out.
I know, but how do we?
How do you know what
how do we
Exactly,
tra-
that's
how do we?
I understand that.
No, I'm just trying to make it clear that, how do we track that that's your personal stuff
Yeah.
or your husband's personal stuff, not the business's stuff? And so.
Or your nanny
uh,
comes
yeah,
over,
and so I
and your
wanna-
nanny goes home, like
I wanna
that's
make sure
another-
if we're calling, I don't know,
Well, I guess that's.
That's why I
to
wanna
me,
make sure it's a
we
question.
should have, that number should have been aimed at the trucks,
Yeah.
not personal cars. I mean, even if it is part of the business. I got FedEx come in a couple times, Amazon a couple.
yeah. And this is why I posed the question. and the
Well, no,
comment.
it seems like the trip limit, or the.
If you want to
should have been
change the
aimed at-
language, you could change
It
it
should
to
have been
being
aimed at the trucks.
We
dump
do it.
truck something.
Yeah.
Can I just say, the reason that the planning commission did that intentionally was to limit the number of trips that could happen with the trucks, and so that there couldn't be an in and out, ever. At most, the truck leaves and it comes back, and that's it. No in and outs. That was why we were that ridiculously strict, for that
But-
reason.
The only thing that's not going to happen. I
But
mean,
it
if he's
should-
got 2 jobs
It
during
should
the
have been
day.
aimed at the trucks,
Yeah.
not the personal vehicles.
Right.
That's my concern. And I don't know if we want to, if you guys want to change that, I don't know.
I really don't
Because-
think it matters, because you can't enforce it anyway.
Well, I mean,
So-
I mean,
That's
we
hard to
can
say.
enforce it, but it might be a waste of a day for an employee.
That's
But
what
again, we
that's what I'm
can
saying,
enforce
is no
it.
one is going to go out there and count how many. So I think that
We
the
can.
number, we can.
You're not
Might be a
going
really
to.
boring day to go.
Can and will are different
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Can and good use of time are different things.
We can't enforce how many campers are in the backyard. How the hell are we going to enforce how many trips are there?
Yes, I hear you. So I guess like I'm not stuck on the number of in and out.
Or we say we can enforce it, I guess.
Yeah, you can come forward.
I shouldn't say we can.
We can. That might not be efficient.
Yes.
Statement.
One question before you answer that, John. Or Daryl. When the previous business was there, was this an issue back then? Or wasn't,
No.
tell me.
He never got to the back part of it, to the northern part of the property. He was dumping some
Daryl, could I
fill.
have you talk to the mic, please? Thank you so much.
He was dumping some fill, I think, east of his property a little bit, and I never met the people.
Okay.
They were
Still-
quiet, they stayed to
Still had
themselves.
trucks going back and forth, right?
He had one truck. He'd leave in the morning, he'd come back in the evening. He was a subcontractor for somebody, so. So he went and did his thing somewhere else and pulled in, pulled out.
So he wasn't storing anything on site?
No, no, no. completely different scenario. The, I don't know if this is my place or not, but there's...
It's your time.
There's 11 acres there, folks. And Michael already said the noise isn't a big deal. He lives here. There's all this space. Now, John says he can't afford to put a building there. Well, he shouldn't have remodeled it before he had permission to do it. You can build a shed like that for $40,000, $50,000, and yes, you can.
Well, they didn't build a mansion.
So, you don't agree?
I mean, I wish I would have known who your builder was, because I couldn't find anyone
You're
with
not
that
gonna build
No.
pole building
Not
for
for
that
50
price
grand.
nowadays, not since COVID.
Not happening. But it's okay.
Okay, so how much do you think I'm off?
I'd say,
It depends on how big that one is. I mean,
150, 200,000?
I'm
No,
saying, yeah.
no, no.
yours is almost, it's half a football field.
All right, we're off track. Go ahead.
You build that building for 80 to 100,000.
Okay.
No problem. But he said he couldn't afford to build another building, but he offered to buy my place, so he obviously, I don't know, one of them was true. Either he could afford to buy my place, or he couldn't afford to buy the building. Seems like he talks both ways. Sometimes you never know which. But my point is, there's a lot of space on the southern part of that property. Michael doesn't care about the noise. He thinks I'm overreacting. What's wrong with it going over there? Why are we married to that building? We have no obligation. I mean, yeah, he ran gas to the building and he cemented it out. It doesn't make the building useless.
Does it work if the driveway's on the south side? Does that help?
Does it help me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd be fine with it, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not trying to begrudge the...
I'm not.
The
We
guy to
gotta
make
get
a
along
living.
somehow. We're here.
Yeah.
I mean, somehow or another, we gotta come to a mutual agreement, and it's going to be barriers on our stipulations on this IUP, that's where we are.
Can we get, you done?
You and
Okay.
I can...
Thank you.
Yeah.
John, can you come back up here for a minute? The North Drive, it seems like everybody's hung up on that. Is there a way to deal with this whole situation without that?
We believe that the septic is right here,
Okay.
okay? So that's one I gotta stay away from.
Yep.
The drop from here to here would mean that I would have to be able to bring in a lot more fill, and I still can't turn, and even if I'm turning around here, I can't get through here because the drop drops so fast. I mean, I'm not asking you the drop drops fast, within, from me to you, it's over 6 feet drop. So that's what's been causing me any
Is there a
difference.
way to do a turnaround where that south, or east of the green box there?
Here?
Yeah, is there a way to do a turnaround?
It starts dropping all off. I took the
Alright.
sand
That
from
tree
here and
line?
pushed it to there, as you can see, and then it just drops off even farther.
That's interesting, because
What-
the Hennepin County their two-line elevations are usually pretty accurate, and it does not show it as being that sharp or steep of a drop.
So that I'm getting exactly what you're talking, Sarah.
So when I'm looking at the Hennepin County Natural
Yeah.
Resources GIS that has 2-foot elevations, which in all of my use of them has been fairly accurate, it's not showing that it's that steep as you're talking about.
Right here?
That whole space, yeah, it's
Oh.
not showing it being that steep, so,
There's
Actually-
fill that's been brought in. that-
okay.
Yeah. And
So
then
that
also
Phil
you-
brought in to make it steep.
Somebody else
wasn't
before
steep.
me.
Got it.
And Michael's here, can speak to it if he feels like it, that it is steep in that spot, because he just shoveled the snow there. And so,
So I think that You know, the question really, the way I think we need you to think about it is, could it be done? Because it may not be ideal, but if you don't get the permit, you're not doing any of this. So could it be done? Could you make this work?
Or even to the east of that storage.
Even if you're hauling in
I
20
haven't
loads of
hauled-
dirt.
Right, I haven't hauled anything in.
No, even if you
Base.
have to. I
Um,
mean, I'm not expecting you to have that done in 45 days either.
right, and that's, my mind is going, because actually Hayden's tougher than you. He wanted me the fence done by May 15th it was?
Something like that.
Yeah, he was tougher than you that I had to have.
So I
it done.
give you 2 weeks.
Right, well, so he's actually.
We might have snow on May 10th yet, I mean, who knows?
And thanks to Sarah pointing that out. But looking at this right here, I can do an elevation and try to hit them, but it's gonna come down really close to septic here, and then it's gonna be a lot of fill. Because this, from here to here, is a 5 to 6 foot drop.
So currently you wanted to go like this and then turn around in here?
No, we'll come around here, and what we did is added a little bit here, and coming out this way, and it would come up. I mean, no, it would come up this way. My truck won't go up this hill.
I didn't mean to suggest, if you
It's too
can make
narrow.
it work,
It's really narrow
I can
in
make
there, I
it
can't
work.
drive through there. I wish I could, I can't
you
even
can
drive.
move it to the other, figure out how to move it.
So that's why this is long and narrow. If I did it here, I would have to come out
I
to
can
here
begrudgingly get on board.
with the road to make it so that it actually
With
fits.
the provisions that
Because my
David
truck
laid
can't go up
out,
it.
that I wrote down.
Yes.
It's just too steep.
In
That's why the narrow spot there.
the 3-year,
And so,
not extending out.
I can look at hauling it in over time. Could I do it in the first 6 months? I
Yeah.
may need more time.
Here's where we
to put
are,
that road
because
in.
I think if we would've came and said, here's what I wanna do,
Yep.
back in 2022, that might have been a suggestion at that time. So I think here's where we are. I'll go along with this deal, as long as we take care of all the fence on the north line, or take care of all the debris on the north line, put that fence in by June 1st. I personally would give you 60 days to clean it up, just because it goes until like April 10th.
Yeah.
I mean, it may not be thought out until the 1st of April, who knows? And I want that driveway on the south of the building. And I would probably give you all of 25 to get that done.
All of 25 what?
25 a year, 2025.
Okay.
To relocate the driveway.
To relocate the driveway.
So there'd be,
Can you work with that?
yeah, so you would not be able to have a driveway on the north side of that building?
I would up until 25, or I can't get trucks in there to even put the material.
Yep, correct. You'd have, and
So I
all
have
the
to, I have to have a variance for 1 year.
Well, not a year.
Be careful
Well,
with that
until
word.
25 is over.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So
You're
I
gonna
would-
be done by November 15th and.
You're right. The
So
asphalt
by
plant's
then, the
closed
south
by
driveway's
Thanksgiving.
gotta be done.
Right.
Otherwise, otherwise we pull it.
So I'll amend my motion to increase the time for the cleanup from 45 to 60 days, and the balance of 2025 to move the commercial use driveway piece of it to the south of the pole building, the barn.
And so will
Was
the
that-
IUP state that there's a year to do that, or how would you word that?
Yeah, we would
Okay.
put a condition of approval that that relocation occur by the end of 2025.
How's that sound?
Not good, but I'll make it happen. I mean, it feels, at least, you are 100% correct. I wish I'd have came in here the day before I bought it. Okay? You're 100%. I was misunderstood. I take responsibility. I'm not passing it on. I'll make it work.
Yeah, well, and
I take responsibility for not doing it for sooner.
And the fence is
Yeah,
done
and
by
that-
June 1st,
Yeah.
Dave?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I forgot that part, yes. But, yes, and I think you have to look at it, nobody's getting what they want out of this deal, right? Can you make it work, or do you move your business? Those are really that's really what we're staring at here today.
I
right?
listened.
And so I'm hearing you say that you can figure that out. It
I
won't
make
be,
work.
it won't be perfect for your operation, but you could figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, we're nowhere until somebody seconds the motion anyway, so.
Are you firsting it?
I did.
I'll second it.
And, okay.
And I just want to make one note, that the driveway permit obviously would be required at the time of you, before you do any work on that south end of the property, or of the east shed, a driveway permit would have to be reviewed and approved by the city.
Okay, and that would have to do with pitching and all that kind of stuff too, I'm sure.
Pitching, depending on what the zoning ordinance requires, I'd have to take a look at that, but really it would just rely on the kind of a site plan drawing out where the addition is going to be.
With that being said, I would need that red area to increase to the south.
Is that a tree line just along the south of the red line?
Yeah.
Trees or bushes?
Trees.
And why is that tree line there? It seems like
Because
an
there's
odd
actually a
place
fence
for it.
that goes and divides the
Oh,
property.
all right.
So that's the top half that when Daryl was using the barn, he used the top half of that. The bottom half is, there was horses here 3 owners back, or 2 owners back.
Okay. So are we good?
And Daryl, you can live with that?
What is it, Bruce?
All the debris on the north property line's gotta come out.
Fence has to
That has to come out in 60 days. The fence has gotta be put in by June 1st. And he's got until the end of '25 to get the driveway on the south side instead of the north side. So you're gonna have to put up with a little bit of noise this summer.
Well, especially if there's Phil being brought in to fix the driveway.
Yeah, but in a matter of 1 to 2 days, that can be done.
Yeah.
Oh, no, there's gonna be more than that.
I was gonna say, that's a lot of.
It's a long, big drop. I just want to be honest.
Yeah.
I can't do it in 2 days.
Okay, well,
Part of the terms to remove the driveway that's on the property line then?
Yes,
Yes.
And how soon will that happen?
by the end of 25.
End of 25.
yeah, he needs to use it until he's got the south one done. You can't get back there without a driveway at all.
You said there's a driveway there now.
A steep one.
I have to be filling in the driveway that is there now, to make it actually longer, is what they're asking me to do.
We can't use it because he has to fill it, right?
Correct.
Well, I don't know if you can drive across it or not. I haven't seen it, so.
So I need to be able to have the one that's there in place
Correct.
until.
Correct.
So we're giving them a year, the end of 2025 to fix that
To
problem.
fix that south
Okay.
driveway, yeah. I think that's fair. I mean,
Yep. Add the south one, remove the north one
Yep.
at the end of
Yeah.
25. That's what I'm hearing.
And
You
that's,
said before that you didn't trust him. You didn't trust him. You trust him now?
well, either it's done or the business is moving.
What?
Either he does that by the end of this year, or our blacktop business is over.
okay, so you got that motion?
Yes.
Is it all good?
Good to go?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No?
No.
And, okay, and I found out at the last tax meeting, that I am related to this guy, so I am gonna abstain. So, passes 3-1. Good luck with everything.
Thank you, I got my work ahead of me.
Yeah, you do.
Keep Councilman.
Thanks for your hard work.
This is the one chance you get.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll let 15 minutes turned into an hour and a half.
Now you know why the planning commission meetings take so long. It's not our fault, or their fault.
We still don't understand that one, but
You guys probably took longer than an hour and a half.
Oh my God, we did. It was ridiculous.
I'd say 3.
Item L.
All right, back again here. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, tonight you were asked to amend the city code related to garbage and refuse to clarify location of containers on residential properties. This was brought up from a HOA president related to writing guidelines to understand how how they can regulate the location and requirements of garbage containers within their HOA. And to clarify this discrepancy, we found that Chapter 50 that was adopted in 1978 requires that all containers be stored at the rear door of the property that it serves or the building that it serves, while a more recently adopted Chapter 130.07 only requires containers to be within 3 feet of the home and kept in a neat and orderly fashion. This language does not dictate location. So to clarify this discrepancy, the ordinance amendment in front of you removes the language in Chapter 50 that was first adopted, and then consolidates the container location and understanding in that regard within Chapter 130.07. The amendment also, just when looking at this, the amendment also removes the requirement for them not only be stored at the rear door, but also that it updates the container size limitations to reflect what is currently provided by service providers. I think the current language is 90 gallons. When looking through some of the website information from the service providers in town, the maximum container size is 95 gallons. So that just clarifies that. And then finally, the last section, just in discussion with the Public Works Department, staff is also recommending language within that ordinance amendment that requires that containers and dumpsters at construction sites be covered at the end of the day while they're not in use to prevent debris becoming a problem to the surrounding areas and neighborhoods. So those are the three main items for the city code amendment. This is not a public hearing. The Planning Commission was asked to provide feedback even though the ordinance amendment did not go to them. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
The question that I have, is this going to be a code amendment that we can enforce?
Well, essentially what you see on the what you see on the screen there for pictures is what you would expect to see with this amendment.
Yep.
So what is essentially in those would be permitted.
I have a question.
Oh, okay, I'll be brief. So it says in here must not exceed 95 gallons, that's the change in size unless specifically authorized in writing by the health authority. Who in the world is that?
And why do we care? Is this to keep a dumpster from showing up? Why do we care if it's 95 gallons?
Well, that's the limitation on a residential property where a single-family property wouldn't necessarily have a dumpster, but also if the code language stays at 90 gallons and curbside waste provides a maximum size of 95 gallons, someone could certainly come with a complaint saying someone has a 95 gallon.
Yeah, that's not what I meant. What I meant was why do we
Have one at all?
Why do we have one?
A limitation?
Yeah.
I guess I don't have a better answer than I think that dumpsters are not necessarily something that is permitted currently on single-family residential, at least.
So that's the intent?
Yes.
But, so what happens next year if ACE says we're doing 100-gallon things? Then we gotta, I don't know, it just struck me as very odd.
It has to be approved by the health authority.
Yeah, the health authority. I don't know, I mean, I understand we don't want dumpsters sitting there, but at the same time, I just don't know why we spec this stuff, some of this stuff.
The only thing is, to me, you gotta have some sort of a variance there if you wanna get a dumpster. I mean, I'm gonna be taking on down a whole bunch of elk fence this summer, and I'm gonna have a dumpster. Now, I'm not residential, but, I mean, if somebody wants to remodel their basement, they should be allowed to get a dumpster for a week, 10 days, 2 weeks.
And there is provisions in the code that allow that.
Okay.
Yeah, you can have that, you just can't have one consistently. As in, like, you can't have a dumpster in your front driveway for 365
So we don't have a
days.
dumpster permit?
No.
It's a dumpster
Not
fire.
yet.
$85 for a dumpster permit?
It's a great suggestion.
Yeah, it's no big deal, I just thought it was odd that we put it on. And
I'm fine with
I
it.
don't know.
Can we change it to say to what the provider?
We could certainly do that.
It's normally provided by the provider or something, yeah. That makes sense.
Although, yeah,
I mean, the idea, Dennis, I understand where you're going, but there needs to be some kind of a standard where, okay, now this is not a residential
sure, I get that.
Container,
So
it's a commercial
I'm just
one.
saying that, I mean, I write requirements for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, this is one that's gonna,
You always-
again, we already ran into trouble with it. So if we're worried about dumpsters, why don't we just say it's gotta be under 200 gallons or something? I don't know. Or maybe what Amy said, limit it to what is available at the vendor.
That can certainly.
Limited to what's provided by the,
Again, it's not a
Yep.
big deal because you're not gonna get complaints over it. It's just, I don't know why we spec some of this stuff.
That can certainly be an amendment to this ordinance amendment.
We need a wordsmith it better, though, if we're approving it tonight.
All right. Well,
who enforces most of the codes? Does Hunter go out, does he out on that?
Depends on if it's zoning or if it's code.
Okay.
If it's code, it's Hunter, if it's zoning, it's...
If this, since this would be a city code thing, this would
Then it would be on.
fall under the community service officer.
No, I'm not, yeah. I was going more
He'll
with
get his
the,
tape measure out on his calculator.
That's the largest standard
We can-
provided by the
yeah.
refuge service, and just leave it at that.
Yeah,
Instead
that
of
sounds
8
good.
is 95 instead of 90.
I like
yeah,
that.
that's better. What she said.
And take the health authority piece out of it altogether.
That is
I
you
think
guys.
I was just the health authority.
We're the health authority?
I believe so.
Are you serious?
I believe so.
Cool.
Yeah.
Who is?
We are.
The council.
we are.
I'm pretty sure the city council is considered the health authority.
Okay. Another
You're
hat.
welcome.
This isn't unrelated to this question. It was about the covering on on the dumpsters. Do we have issues with other people coming to dump things in other people's dumpsters?
Sure.
Okay. Are we hoping the cover will help with that?
We have people that come and dump, and we have people that come and take.
They can too.
I think what we were trying to achieve with the dumpster and the covering is, especially when we have road restrictions on, those dumpsters get full to the brim, and then the stuff is blown out, particularly on the developments. So
Oh, yeah.
this will be a way for them to cover it and keep the debris in the dumpster.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Twofold.
Yeah.
But that's a fair question.
And this was driven by the HOA was concerned about.
They conflict. The current standards, like, we have to fix them. We can't leave
Yeah, I remember that.
conflicting standards.
Not want to get hung up.
That's fine.
Whether a garbage can is.
You need a motion, right?
All right.
I'll make the motion to approve what she said.
Okay, any
We'll make that
second?
note.
Second.
That's Sarah.
Stephanie hasn't had a second yet. You should give it to
you're right.
Stephanie.
Are you counting?
Yes, you haven't seconded anything yet.
You're right, I have not.
Okay, any more discussion?
You got a letter?
All right, all those in
Pause
favor
for a
say
little
aye.
bit.
Aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. And if there are no objections, we'll be adjourned. We're adjourned.
Can you-